Welcome to the GreatBase Tennis Podcast. I'm Steve Smith along with Cris Valverde. Excited to have Cris visiting. He was a guest previously on the podcast, but now he's in person. Give me the high five. He's here with his two sons, Wintergreen. He's from Portland, Oregon. And we're going to have a podcast. I think it's 204. You've listened to 203. Ooh, you must have no life. You must have no life listening to our podcast.
Am I catching up with Dave Anderson? He's probably the all-time leader in guest appearances.
Yeah. In fact, I talked to him the other day about let's just have the Wimbledon final on, and we'll chat during the Wimbledon final.
Great idea.
Years ago, Brian Wilson, not Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys, but Brian Wilson from the University of Illinois, called me up, and it was kind of out of nowhere, and he said that what I should do is, as I'm watching the match, people could turn the volume down, and we'll talk during the match. But let's talk tennis. With the last podcast, net play or no net play, Andy Fitzell, I want to get this in. He did tell me to mention that we did not mention the short ball range. We just went through that on the tennis court. We do it all the time. The number of steps it takes you to get in good volume position. So when you approach cross court, you have to wait for a shorter ball and a ball that's closer to the net. We drop hit underspin backhands in practice, and you need to know the rationale. First of all, it's a lost art, but it's trajectory that keeps the ball low. And when the ball's in flight, you can be in movement so you can get closer to the net. And your opponent gets about 50% of their pace from the incoming pace. But most people just run around the opportunity to play a one-handed cross-court approach shot, like Sir Roger. He used to do that, and he would hit a forehand into Rafa's forehand, not get as close to the net. And then Djokovic comes along. But even Roger Federer, Tennis Analytics 2017, I should have listened to my dad. He told me I was chicken, hit the backhand. But when you have to look at numbers. So it's a number of appearances to the net and then the winning percentage behind it. But we're going into the second week of Wimbledon. I mean, tomorrow's actually Sunday. So I think one other thing, Cris, and start with, you said you had some questions. I was watching Ben Shelton play Lloyd Harris. And Matt Clore, he spent years with us now. He has spent quite a bit of time on the court with Ben Shelton, who is the Patrick Mahomes of tennis.
Great athlete.
And smiling. And then enjoying competition. And then Lloyd Harris. It wasn't too long ago. It was the U.S. Open where Lloyd Harris was playing Alcaraz. Engage weapon number one. I have no second serve. I'm just going to go boom. And on the second serve, I'm going to go boom. But just to watch, it's amazing on grass. I mean, it wasn't too long ago. And I love Rybakina's game. I know it's clay. It's more difficult to change your direction. Your footing on clay to veer off to the right or left as you go to the net. But Rybakina, and again, I think she's easily one of the best tennis players. You have to combine tennis player and athletes. So good mentally. There's a couple, Goff and Swiatek, are better physically. But the ball is going up high, and she's running backwards, let it bounce. And the ball bounces based on trajectory. It's like, no, go forward. And that's something else. Wimbledon on the grass, even though the grass was changed in 2001, 2002, that conventional approach volley, another lost art, like the underspin backhand. But we can start anywhere. Let's go. Cris, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Podcast.
We spent a little time watching some of those Wimbledon matches and getting back to Ben Shelton and Lloyd Harris. Surprising to see Ben moving so far back just to hit that forehand. He's in the twilight zone.
Well, serve plus one. At the grassroots level, I cringe when I hear that. Serve plus one. I'm going to crank a serve, and then I'm going to crank a forehand. And there should be more options than just loading up on a forehand. But when you have a serve like that, wow. But he did. The other day, he had 98 net appearances, and he won 77 points. But then, well, let's look at that. Did he go forward 99 times did he end up where Big Brain said, ideally when the point's over, you can take one step, reach out and touch the net. I mean, was he really closing in or was he just going forward? So he definitely was being so offensive and dictating points. But that certainly was covered in the last podcast. Why don't people go to the net? Why do people play one up, one back doubles? On and on and on.
We also watched a little bit of Diane Schneider and Emma Navarro. Cool as a cucumber, Emma Navarro.
Yeah, she seems like she's got so much fitter. Diana Schneider spent a school year at NC State. We spent a lot of time with Dave Secker, who's the associate head coach. Certainly I know Simon Earnshaw really well. With the head coach, what an amazing run as far as, she's won 2 tournaments. I think one was WTA 500, Diana Schneider. Same thing, lack of play from the service line for both of them. And so Schneider really has she's had a short run. I mean, he hasn't played pro tennis for a long time. But she has a very impressive junior background. I believe she was top 5, Orange Bowl finalist. With and obviously playing the juniors, junior Wimbledon, junior French, etc. But remember John Lofndiaga, who was a junior who spent some time living with us when he was a kid, a South African, all these years later. He played pro tennis. He never won a major, but he was in the semis, I think 3 or 4 times of doubles. Fed Cup, Davis Cup coach. And he had a line in pro tennis, if you have a weakness, you will find it. It's like Stevie Johnson, great player, did so much in college tennis, but he struggled on the backhand side. A lot of times he was just, hitting underspin. If he could, and he got to be, I think, 27 in the world. Our fact checker, he was up there. That's a great tennis player. NCAA, multiple titles. But I just think of like a Pete Sampras, he would be able to serve to Stevie's backhand and come in and volley to his backhand. And coming back to Diana Schneider and John Lofndiaga in pro tennis, if you have a hole, they will find it. But it's just amazing. I heard Chris Everett, should be 70 years old this year, December. I heard her say that they should definitely at least come into volley once in a while. And it's like, zero, I mean, close to 0 net appearances.
We watched a lot of, we've watched a lot of points, and I don't think we've seen anyone hit a tabletop return on a second serve and come in and hit a volley.
Patterns. In junior tennis at the grassroots level, and it seems negative, doom and gloom, but it's not. It's just honest. And honesty seems rebellious, seems dark. The truth is hard to swallow. So the kids will double fault. They're not really hitting aces at the grassroots level. The local tennis. So they're missing serves, double faulting. They're missing forehand returns, backhand returns, forehand ground strokes, backhand ground strokes. That's pretty much it. That's 5. And the only attempt at offense is they try to wallop. They try to, now you got to be very careful. I mean, even if you didn't play baseball as an American boy, it wasn't fair for girls back in the day, but you're around baseball and you say things like, it's not home run derby. And you got to stop and think they have no idea what you're saying. Home run derby, where you knock it out of the ballpark. And anyway.
I've also heard you say, when we were watching some of the matches, bad math. That's bad math. Bad math on the strokes. Bad math with not being aware of the aggressive error margin at the net. 2 out of 3 points. And I find it interesting that here we are with a group of juniors, and we have some kids here this week that are pretty darn good. And just to make those little changes, moving their grip over just a little bit. Speaking of tennis math, to get that racket head aligned makes such a big difference. Now they can go fast and forward.
People ask us, or they, request that we talk more about tennis math with backtracking. Barry Switzer, a football coach, baseball, the American fabric years ago, was the number one sport. Great quote. That kid was born on third base and thinks he hit a triple. Let me say it again. That kid was born on third base and thinks he hit a triple. It's got a little worse. I think that kid was born on third base and he thinks he hit a home run. Better yet, that kid was born on third base and he doesn't even have to run the bases because he just, doesn't run. But tennis math, we go with the 5 S's. First is review, but the first is self-management, numbers for self-management. Chart it. Do you make your bed in the morning? What do you do before you go to the bathroom in the morning? If someone says they want to be a tennis player, okay, let's get after the routines. Do you shadow swing in front of the mirror 2 minutes in the morning, 2 minutes in the evening? Say you're keeping track. At least you're doing these things 3 times a week. Skipping rope, 12 minutes, 3 minutes on, 1 minute off, just 3 minutes rounds. And if you could come back and mention that about boxing, we talked about that. We've talked about so many things. It's been great to have you here with your passion for tennis. But coming back to the 5 S's, there's numbers for strokes, numbers for strategy, numbers for stats, and of course, there's numbers for score and ranking and rating. And it's kind of like Dennis Van used to say, people forget 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're all wrapped up in 5. He used to do that with first get the ball in, then get the ball deep, and then be able to place the ball corner to corner, then add spin. And then finally, okay, let's talk a little bit about adding some pace. But Dennis, we're going to forget 1 through 4 and go through 5. You don't, show up as a 6-year-old and say, okay, I'd like to be in the 5th grade. You have to take the steps. But no, tennis math, for the most part, and I'd love to listen to commentators on TV. Yeah, they throw up some analytics, but they're not going tennis math. Tennis math for us is, okay, let's go with some numbers for the grip. Grip determines the angular racket face. Angular racket face determines the angular racket path. Let's go for the numbers for the shape of the swing. How far does that racket go below the ball? How far away from your body? How long is the hitting zone? And then like with the body, anything that can be measured can be improved. At the impact point, have they really lifted? Are both toes up off the ground? So then that turns into, well, how do they get the RPMs? How do they get the spin and speed? Interchangeable, the control and power. Like say, for example, you hit further away from your body, that could be measured. If you get way away from your body, you think, well, it's just for more speed. But no, if you can hit true clean topspin if you get away from your body. If you're pulling the racket in, you're going to get a combination of topspin and side spin.
Jimmy Connors had a little bit of that on his forehand, kind of pulling in.
Well, Jimmy didn't have grip on 3. He had grip a little further underneath. And then one thing that Jimmy did because of that is he had to realign the racket. So always take a second look. You can't say, no, you have to hit it this way. It's not dogmatic, authoritative. But the other thing too is that Jimmy, the story goes that he hit off in the Armory, St. Louis, Belleville, Illinois, hit against the wall, and the ball came off a wooden surface. And it's very interesting. I've loved listening to Roddick. He's got a new podcast out. I guess it's been out for 3 months or so. And gee, how would Roddick do at his prime against Connors in his prime? Obviously Andy had such a much better serve, but Jimmy would stay in close. Bud Collins, he would steal the ace. He would get that racket face square to hit, and he would just wall to the ball. But he was 74 when he first won Wimbledon. That was 50 years ago. And when you start, for me, your passion goes back to, okay, hey, this was a pinnacle. 1974, watching Jimmy Connors. A famous hockey player, Ken Dryden, says that generally people's memory is best when they first were so passionate about their sport. So I go back to 74. I just would assume that most young kids listening to me are thinking, Jimmy Connors, 1974. Get the line, he couldn't play in today's game. No, he would do quite well in today's game.
I often wonder how players would do going back in time. How would players today do back then?
I once
They
heard
couldn't.
Vince Spadea. Vince Spadea, 19 in the world. And he also lost 19 times in the first round. But you got to be a
Yeah.
great tennis player if you're 19 in the world. And I heard him one time say, and he was mic'd up, he was being interviewed. He said, I think we all need to go back and look at some of the players from old school. Old school, new school, there is no school. Yeah. What else you got?
Um,
Fire away. Any
let's
questions?
just a little bit more math.
Yeah.
Because I love talking to you about this.
No problem.
Ad nauseum. The grips on the volley, the myth of the continental grip on the volley. That's
1977, Vic Braden, Tennis for the Future. Actually, even going back forth, 1976, May 10th. Tennis is in the Stone Ages. Jack Kramer said, if I lost to anybody who played with a continental grip, I would go back to the hotel and break all the furniture. He knew under pressure that Gonzalez had a continental grip on the forehand side. And he said, because of that, this is in Braden's book. He said, because of that, I could buy a golf course and build a tennis club. When you have a true continental grip, tennis is really, so much teaching out of habit, old wise tales. Where do you get the math? In our world, if you don't know 360 divided by 8 is 45, you don't know the grips. We always say, well, there's 23,000 people in Arthur Ashe Stadium. How many people really know the grips? Again, I love listening to Roddick. He said not too long ago, I'm from Nebraska. I don't do grips. And he was, at one point, he's interviewing Brad Gilbert, who I love to listen to. And he brings some magic for sure. But he doesn't do grips. If you're going to start coaching people that are already top 10 in the world. It's not teaching people the grips. But it's a Bradenism. Top players, they don't say what they do or do what they say. Like the Bryan brothers are great for tennis, awesome ambassadors. And a composite grip is almost a continental. And here in the U.S., especially a few years ago, and Jose Aguirre's 6th in the world, and people love the guy, highly respected. And he says it's almost a continental grip. It used to be called the Australian grip. You say, well, Laver and the boys. But yeah, most people at the very high level, they're not doing grips. It's like with Brad Gilbert. Certainly Coco Gauff is so great. And we could speculate, say, yeah, if you could turn the clock back, she would have been better off with a grip that gave her tennis math. It gave her less calculation. Not that it's wrong. Ryan Reedy, his name comes up. He does a great job of 2-minute tennis. And he was trained by Jim Klein, who I trained. So it's like third generation, but he has a really good handle on Vic Braden information. But Vic is talking about, he used to talk about the racket face. If you want to volley continental, you can. But you have to make some wrist adjustments, and you can volley with a continental grip. But that's where Vandermeer used to say, if someone they finally get to the point where they can hit a spin serve. But the really young kids, it's really unfortunate that they're taught bad math. They're taught bad grips. And that's one reason of many they don't go to the net.
Yeah, they're also watching the pros and what they're doing. And I think sometimes, we tend to copy our heroes.
Well, I think when you're watching the pros versus, say, listening to the pros, first of all, depending on what level of pro tennis you're going to, but not too long ago, I was at a challenger. It's, a lot of kids are playing one up, one back doubles. And I would say this, not necessarily ATP, the very best players, but look at Djokovic, he's improved so much in every area, but it gets this way. It's getting this way. If you don't see the warm-up, you won't see the volleys. You got to be there for the warm-up because they won't volley. There's players that play the futures level. They don't even take volleys and overheads. No, that's good. I don't need to warm up at the net. Crazy. So I don't think you can go by, all right, I'm watching the pros. Can they really see the grips? From 78 feet away, you should be able to tell, when you're warming up with someone, what grip they have. You should be able to tell from their ready position what grip they have. But once again, you have to have information. And the way we go about it, is fact-based instruction for long-term development. If you're teaching facts, your kids aren't going to do as well in the beginning. If you want to do really well, if you want to teach a 12-year-old to do really well, let them have a palm-up serve. Let them have a Western grip. Let them have a two-handed backhand. Tell them never go to the net. Hit the ball high, arc the ball, and cheat like crazy, and you'll be a really good 12-year-old. And begin with the end in mind. But it's really, I ask kids, are you into winning or development? They go, development. And I go, have you heard the story of Pinocchio? But that's what needs to happen is people need to know their level. All sorts of situational training. We were just going over one pattern earlier, hitting an underspin backhand. And can you hit an underspin backhand? Can the person on the other side, I'm feeding the ball in from the sideline. Play an underspin backhand approach. Your partner on the other side, they're going to hit a down the line passing shot and you hit a cross court volley. And it was pretty bleak. Four people have played quite a bit of tennis and would be looked upon as respectable players. One of them, outstanding college freshman last year. But so, well, let's not do that anymore. It's not fun. I tell juniors, it's a dumb drill if you can't do it. So, okay, let's just play winners move up, losers move down. And let's forget refinement. Okay, we're not going to have this tool. You need to have tools, a toolbox, and a plan. You need to know what a hammer is. You need to know what a saw is. You need to know what a screwdriver is. And, really, that's somebody says like a Roger Federer, lots of tools. Alcaraz, lots of tools.
My experience being here this week, a lot of the kids know quite a bit of information. You have all your free courses. It's amazing. All the videos, all the podcasts. Your kids know a lot of information, but once you're here at beautiful Wintergreen Resort, lovely place, clay courts, indoor courts. The kids know the information, and then it's it's peer teaching, which is great for information retention, kids regulating kids, and kids becoming leaders, kids taking ownership of their tennis, their UTR of when they get up. We had kids this week getting up at 6:30 in the morning. No one told them to, but there they are getting up at 6:30 in the morning, going running. I thought that was really great. And,
there were a couple tail enders that they weren't going at 6:30, but I said, guys, you're here making, getting a bagel, putting some peanut butter on it. It's like, no, you need to get up and go. So then the big brother approach. One thing about students knowing information, though, do they know it in the classroom? And then do they know it on the court? And emotional intelligence, we always, Welby Van Horn, they pick the racket up and they reduce their IQ in half. They're just going, I want to win. What's the score? My UTR. And, I just told you, boy, he's here for 4 weeks. I told you he'd be better off if he was going to drama camp, theatrics. To fake it is to make it, act as if it's a powerful tool. Because the intangibles, he had stage fright. He had the information, but I think it was great. He came in, he just showed up, but he's been part of the program for 5 years now, or close to it. He can hit the ball right-handed, can hit the ball left-handed. Anybody, he's the type of kid now, he's playing tournaments, 12 years old, and people are giving him business cards.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're also saying, you need to come with me. I'll show you how to really play. And that, you need to get to the track, you need to run. But it's really interesting, how do people learn to compete? Welby Van Horn used to always ask people, how do you develop a tennis mind? Let me go back so we don't forget it, though. Tell me about boxing. You said to get your license.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Just as far as, being a fitness freak, I know I think it's the state of Nevada where in order to get your boxing license, if you haven't had it before, you have to go through a fitness test. And that includes a jump rope routine where, you have to show the board that you can jump rope for, I want to say it might be 10 rounds, 3 minutes, So you have to show that you're physically fit enough to.
Yeah, that comes from Jack Kramer. We tell people 15 rounds. And I know right now of the kids that we had here, even the top player, I'm pretty confident they'd get injured if they try to do 15 rounds. Just not going really quickly. We got an Englishman in the background. We doing okay with the camera? All right.
Speaking of boxing, we had some kids on the court the other day. They're making mistakes, and they think their puppy got lost. It's interesting in other sports. Let's take boxing for example. A boxer, is throwing punches. They don't land every punch. So we could say when they miss a punch, that's a mistake, but they don't stop and mope and cry and say, "Oh, that jab was awful." They have to move on right away. And in tennis, a kid makes a good mistake. Hey, I missed long, or I missed in a point-ending situation, and I can't volley.
Well, the Jim Laird, his start in tennis, I think he's obviously very well known now. How did he become famous? He started to study what tennis players do in between points. So now it's 20 seconds. It used to be 30. It was 30, then 25. And it's time to self-destruct. If you're playing Haroon in the background, our Englishman, if you're playing football, real football, not American football, and you make a pass, it's intercepted. Now, the soccer players, they do talk about drama class. Is it a red card? Not a red flag, a red card. The way they act for that red card. But then you think about how severe a penalty that is. The consequences that the other team, they have to play down a man the rest of the game. Like, whoa. In hockey, you drop your gloves, get in a fight. It's just 5 minutes. It's okay, boys. Just go sit out for 5 minutes, cool off a little bit. But yeah, so they pass a soccer ball and it's intercepted. They don't have a meltdown. They got a transition. Okay, I was on offense. We had possession of the ball. Now we don't. That line, Doug Davis, long time ago, fact checker. I believe he's still coaching Austin, Texas. His three boys became really good players. Told me one time at the Eddie Hur, "Steve, we're standing among the weakest people on the planet." Now, tennis allows kids to be self-negative. They pout, they sulk, they mope, they whine, they whimper. They need to be high negative. You need to encourage that, where the introverts they really struggle with that. Slap yourself on the thigh. Come on, let's go right here. And if you won't cheerlead for yourself, who will you pull for? Soft love, tough love, crazy love, but too much whimpering.
We were the other night, Yvonne and yourself and I asked Yvonne. I said, "Hey, what do you think Coach Smith is, personality type?" And
he said no personality. Smart guy.
He didn't say D-U-M-B.
D-U-M-B.
But let's see here. He said you're ENFJ, the empathetic educator. So with that, how do you bring out this? How do your kids come here? They got good strokes. They've obviously come here before, a lot of them. How do you bring out the story? How do you bring out the story in the kid, each individual kid, and with the work ethic and like you just mentioned, we had a kid come today. All right, sing "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star." How do you find those buttons or those things to take them out of their comfort zone? That's one thing I find that you're really good. Sometimes it's not about their strokes necessarily, but it's about finding that inner belief system in each child and the story in the child. What makes you so good at that?
Well, thanks. I don't know if I'm good at it, but number one, I think you have to throw everything but the kitchen sink at him. Big brain. If you have to stand on your head, people are sent to us to work on technique. Yeah, if you have to do anything you can, if you have to stand on your head to get him hit the ball. Met a woman today. She has a summer house up here in the mountains, and her 11-year-old daughter is playing tournaments. and she's very polite, and she's watching our group, and she said, "Well, I know you just work with advanced players." And I said, "Oh, come on out on the court. Let me show you a few things." And advanced players, with the stratification of players, elite players that have been around forever, they have to do beginner drills. You never outgrow basics. You and I've talked about that before. If people want to go back and listen to you when you were on our podcast before, but some sports just teach it. Like, you're going to stand at the foul line and you're going to make that shot, a standstill, static, balanced shot. It's going to be very important. How do you come out of the blocks as a sprinter? And over again, just practicing that. So there's tangibles and there's intangibles. And the book Championship Teacher, you ask kids questions. In the book, I should rattle off the author's name. Great book. You ask the kid who doesn't raise their hand. And when they don't know the question, you say, "Well, just wait." And there's that moment of silence. Beginning tennis teachers, young tennis teachers, they can just see in the eyes of their students that they're bored with the drill. Okay, let's change the drill. No. And I do think to say, okay, you have to be a little schizophrenic. You can't treat everyone the same. You're chirping and, I've taught many places, over 30 countries where we've had translators, and it's a little bit different. You can use humor. You got to make fun of yourself first. You got to, tell them, hey, I tell that kid the story when I dropped a pass in a football game and they put a sticker on my helmet, couldn't catch a cold. Those are internal scars. And, that the more internal scars you have, the better. I have no problem telling somebody, okay, right now with the small group we have, you're the player with the least amount of time in the game. Everybody has a right to be a beginner. That's a Bradenism. And just stop and go, but I think what really helps is, say there's a young player here from Michigan who plays at NC State, come in the video room and, she sees tweak the backhand grip on the backhand volley, and because of the angle of the racket face, angle of the racket path. And then we have Matt, our coach, sends some film, and she doesn't have, in that one match we looked at, and then look at another one, there's just not enough net appearances. So, another word really for program would be family. You have squad, but so you got to have people pulling for each other, and everybody practicing with each other. Like today we had sets being played, so there's obviously a compatibility factor there. But you look around and it's like, okay, I'm going to take learn this from Vandermeer. You take the alpha dog. You got to win over the alpha dog. I'm going to take the best player. I'm going to roll some film and let's film their backhand volley. Let's put them through a skills test. Let's film it. Let's go in the classroom. And then, hey, we're all in this together. Check your ego at the door. And then that advanced player, they can go out and they can toss balls with a new kid. Compatibility factors. And, so you're here for a week. Obviously, you've gone through all our courses and our podcasts, and goes on and on, Instagram film, and just talking to you over the phone, I knew that you knew, the information. But still being here for a week is a blink of an eye. We'll have people come here for the very first time. We have a boy coming, I think, in 2 days, so you'll miss him. But I did a traveling workshop, and he's a good tennis player. We made one video for him, but in that workshop, we don't really like to do it that way. We just filmed his essential stroke. So there's 48 people at the workshop. He signed up to have a video made, and he's a player where, okay, I'd like to see you play matches first. I want to watch you play some matches. I wouldn't want to coach somebody via video if I really hadn't seen him play. You got to take it to the court. Okay, let's watch you play a set or two. But then time management too. It's like, okay, they write down what their goals are. There's 2 girls that are here. Right now they're downstairs and people are learning how to chart. They're going to be 8th graders rising 8th graders, reclassify or take the gap year. And then with that, we put on the board over 2,000 days. That's tennis math, 2,000 days. And I think playing Division I tennis for those kids, that'd be a piece of cake if they did what they were told. They're already, people are going to compliment them already. But they say one of them, for example, coming back to sing a song, tell a joke, get in front of the group. That was a turnaround, just having the girl do the, come on.
That was great.
That comes from Jim Lair. I mean, John Verdi, Steel Baby Steel. Okay, that is fantastic. I'm going to get people in front of the group. And I mean, I always tell people too, if you're almost 70 and you have no hair on your head, you can use nicknames. Just have them go for a day. And you go, you're such a church mouse. But then you tell a story like Roger Federer. What Federer's father say? Don't be chicken. What happens to chickens? They get eaten. And, but I do think so many times, you met one of the interns for this past week. And I told her, I said, she was recommended by Dave Secker. And I said, well, yeah, come for 3 months. That's a good start. But this is what you should do beforehand. But I said, well, no, it's just be difficult to explain how it'll work for you here. But it'll be just the opposite of the industry norm. The industry norm, you'll be tied to a ball basket and you'll just feed balls as kids go through drills. No one will be filmed. No one will be skill tested. And people will be looking left and right and go, who's in my group? And then even at the first break, they may text mom and go, they got me in the wrong group. It's just tennis. We need to get better. That's the whole purpose of the GreatBase podcast, or what we're doing now, is we've gathered some information from people from the past that were pretty good at teaching tennis.
One of the dumbest questions, who's in my group?
Yeah. I tell young coaches, I don't talk the way I talk, but I tell parents, they'll ask me that. And if you smile, you can say anything. Well, that's a dumb question. You got another question? I go, it doesn't really matter who's in their group. How's it work? I'm going to stand next to this person and they're going to help me shorten the swing on my forehand. It is true. If you play with advanced players and they hit the ball deeper, consistently with pace, that's going to help you shorten up your swing. But tennis snobs, you got to practice with anybody and everybody. How about the 60 shots?
That was great.
So we take the best player. We got the Englishman in the back. Okay, so our 12-year-old who just showed up, he's worked with us for, say, 5 years. So they play a match. The 19-year-old is going to beat the 12-year-old. We call that brawn versus brain. Well, if we go through skill testing, well, I'm betting on the 12-year-old. He's going to hit more targets. Just courtesy feed, because he moves the racket better tennis math. But 60 shots, I did this many times with my son, Connor. Okay, so you're going to try to win 6-0. Okay, so the advanced player is playing the superior player is playing the inferior player. Well, if you're so superior, let's see you do this. You're going to serve 3 games, return 3 games. So the 3 games you serve, you can play 4 points. When you're serving, you're going to hit 3 shots. We'll go with a little Paul Wardlaw. You're going to be in the back, building, in the middle, midcourt, forcing. This is the language of Wardlaw. You're going to come up to the forecourt, and you're going to end. And if you're really good, you could just beat someone like this. Dink. Just come up, boom. You beat people playing in slow motion. People banging their Babolat rackets. So 3 times 4 is 12, times 3 is 36 shots. So now you return. And you asked about the tabletop approach shot.
Yeah.
An Alcaraz can do that. If you square out in the ready position, if you're organized, it's just framework. Can you from the ready position turn? In relationship with strokes, in relationship with spin. So the ready position, you turn, you set up for a volley. It's like a volley with an added follow through. So 3 times returning, need 4 points. That's 12 times 2 shots. That's 24. So you put 3 people on the court, 1 person on the bench, and they're just using the tally system: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And using just some examples, just going by first names. Young boy from North Carolina, Max. A young boy from Florida, Aiden. They're going to play. and how many shots is it going to take? And then have some fun with it. Situational training. On Tennis Intelligence Applied, there's many examples of situational training. Okay, Vic Braden, why don't you play some doubles and poach on every ball? People just don't hear that. Okay, we're going to play, you go out, play tiebreakers. You got to serve and volley both balls. Play an entire set where you're going to hit a one-handed backhand. Repeating myself, and I appreciate the people that want to hear it over and over again. When we put Tennis Intelligence Applied together, 365 clips, we thought that young coaches, okay, I'll go through this once, I'll go through it twice. Because to become a competent tennis teacher, it's just like becoming a competent tennis player. It's, and I really respect how you've studied tennis backwards and forwards. You're asking about this coach and that coach and all these people that you've met. I know you went through your background in the last podcast we had. But yeah, the 60-shot drill. And, some kids, they'll play an entire match. It's amazing. They'll play an entire year where they don't serve and volley.
On one of your podcasts, you mentioned, you don't have to learn how to win. Learn to compete and build instincts. And I thought that was really great. And you echoed that. You echoed that a couple times this week in different ways. Don't worry so much about winning. Worry about building skills.
Well, all these coaches from the past, John Wooden never mentioned winning. Winning is a byproduct of skills. Yeah. Winning takes care of itself. First it's the willpower to learn the skill, and then you drill, and then it'll be a thrill. And then also too, if you think of it, okay, I want to make my tennis game a masterpiece. 10 minutes, 10 months, 10 years. I'm going to work at it. And we did the same thing with the college player. She stays in college 3 more years. I mean, she's a tall gal. It says she has over 1,000 days left in her college career. I get myself in trouble. The easiest money in tennis is women's doubles. One of the toughest things is to find a partner who goes forward. I'll talk about Dave Anderson. I watched where Ashton Kruger lost in less than an hour to Jessica Pegula. And she's playing on grass. And I remember being out at Brookhaven in Dallas and watching her play. She's very, very good. I mean, I think she won the 18s, the US 18s twice. I think she won the Orange Bowl twice. She's a really good tennis player.
Very good player.
But to get to that next level, even to get a doubles partner, I'm going to serve and come in. You guys serve and come in. Let's just play this way. Let's just go for it. Let's play like the Bryan brothers. Let's play like Martina Navratilova. Green light point, Roger Federer, like Dick Gould, his coach from Stanford. You got to get into the net at least twice a game. I don't care how you get there. So yeah, winning is not confusing. It's totally confusing. If people right now, they're learning to chart, and we're down to 10 points a day. It used to be 20. Now, a lot of times we pick up 3 and 3, 3 in your left hand, 3 in your right hand, and run. Okay, we'll do 1 and 1 backwards, but we used to just do 1 and 1 only. So players now they have children, and they show up to bring their kids, and I yell 3 and 3, and they go 3 and 3. We never did 3 and 3. It was always 1 and 1. So that's just society. We get softer, and we don't even know it. It's not. You can't blame parents. It's society, especially here in the U.S. of A. It's technology. It's like, whoa.
Going back to John Wooden, be brilliant at the basics. The great Bill Walton just passed away not too long ago, and can you imagine the great Bill Walton? He setting foot on the UCLA campus, and John Wooden showing him how to put his socks on correctly.
I have a copy of that tape. So pretty boring tape. So you won't get blisters. How to tie your shoes. Nobody's going to miss any time because they have blisters on their feet. Wearing 2 socks, a thin pair of socks, heavy pair of socks. Tennis players don't take care of their feet. I have some problems with my feet. Going too deep with removing calluses. These things called keratomas, where malfunctioning sweat glands. And, it's like having a little M&M on the back of the bottom of your foot. But John Wooden, yeah, okay, we're going to teach you a chest pass. The be brilliant from basics. I'm sure Lombardi learned that from someone else, obviously. But I always think of Lombardi. Mark Hamlin mentioned that recently in a podcast. We're really good because of fundamentals. And yeah, okay, fundamentals are not fun. But I think that's where, okay, you coming back to, you bring the kids in, you talk to them. Okay. We did some doubles today, and 6 players on the court. All 6 players run around their backhand volley. Ball's coming right at them, and they go like this. They go, sorry, but at a real high level, you will not play high level doubles. Okay. You're going to play, you have range of motion when that ball is right here in your breadbasket, right in front of your stomach. Awareness, acceptance, commitment. And when does it become important to the kid? But then you have to keep quizzing them, the feedback. You just keep going back. Braden used to always say, as a pet peeve, he didn't want anyone to say, well, in the next class, you teach wire to wire. We have a girl here who's on a full scholarship, so it doesn't apply to her, but I told people when college kids are in a class and the professor lets them out early, stand up and say, no, sir, ma'am, no, we paid for this class. Don't let us out early. People want the easy way out. I have a lot of pet peeves. I know that this is not a great teacher. On a college campus, if the professor says, we're going to let you take your exam during review week, the juniors, I teach so many junior tennis players, the students love it. They just want a longer vacation. Figure it out. No, we're going to go bell to bell. We're going to teach bell to bell, and we're not going to give anybody any slack. It reminds me of the 45-hour exam. For every 1 hour lecture class, you have 3 hours to give your final. So I had a 15-hour lab. I had 45 hours to give the test. It took 45 hours to give the test. People would come in and say, okay, from your notes, copies of the thank you letters you've written. Okay, what were the key points? We had a speaker come in. Okay, what are the 12 things that Jim Lair says you can do physically? And just like, let's get organized. Let's get into it. We have people here studying to teach tennis. We should have a notebook for drills. Okay, these are technical drills for the volley. These are technical drills for the ground strokes. These are, buzzwords, phrases. Is that, with people are a fan of winning. Fan is short for fanatical, but are people fans of learning? And all the little things add up.
A lot of video work, labor-intensive video work. You mentioned the kids were downstairs learning to Bill Jacobson's T-chart. Really awesome to know. Builds awareness. The
T-chart is something I just created off of his CompuTennis CT120. It's just a plus and minus column for each player. Point ends 3 ways, and just number the point, and just write down the point ending shots. And you can get 10-year-olds to do that. But yeah, right here behind us, we have 2 large whiteboards and the name of each kid who's here. And we're going to film them running, throwing, rallying, their basic strokes. We're going to film them playing points. And then when they leave, we're going to film them again. It's amazing how people don't use film. We tell kids, all right, if people are following our program to the nth degree, they set up their garage, could be where I have spare room. They hang a string from the ceiling. Little piece of tape at the end with their outstretched arm and racket for the serve. They have a poster of Don Leary, the word picture method, images for the serve. They have mirrors, preferably on both sides of the room. They have a practice log. They've got a tripod and they got a camera. And every day, preferably twice a day, go in there and you'll have a great, great serve. And to understand the details of the serve. Who does that? Braden. Winners. Winners are willing to do it. Non-winners are not willing to do it. But the problem is It sounds so egotistical, boastful, because people don't have tennis math. They don't have tennis math. I mean, it's like, well, I'm listening. Give me some rationale. With the best analytics, most important analytics, grip, swing, body, and the grip of a lifetime. Okay. There's not a perfect grip. How's it go, Braden? No such thing as a perfect grip, just the grip with the least amount of adjustment.
Yeah.
And if you don't change your grip, you got to change your wrist. And just like, I'm going for it. I love the line that, okay, no, I'm not the coach. I'm the compass. I'm giving you directions. Are you following the directions? You're not following the directions.
I love the story that you were telling us. I got this. I got this. I got this.
Yeah, I quickly repeat that. Should know the name of the pro golfer, but girl has Down syndrome. 18th hole is a par 3. The gallery's there. It's on TV. They ask a top golfer to just walk to the final hole with this girl. Her dad is with her. She points at the pin. I'll just go through fast. She goes, I got this. And she knocks the first shot, like tennis. There's a drive. She walks up to it. Then there's an approach. The volley is a putt. So a second shot, she gets everybody's attention. Okay, I'm watching a little close. She puts it up on the green. I got this. She gets up close to the hole, knocks it in for birdie. Crowd goes crazy. And the thing is the gentleman walking with her, that's what I should know, is the next major, he played it and he won.
Yeah.
And he said, the girl helped me win that tournament. I just kept saying, I got this. I really believe when you watch people shoot basketballs, to me look like their technique all looks similar. I guess a player I love is Shaq. I guess at the foul line, Shaq's not that smooth, but efficient. Gotta love that guy though. But anyway, humor. But I just really believe I got this. This is going in. And like Michael Jordan's missed more game-winning shots so I don't know if this record still stands. More game-winning shots than anybody in the history of the NBA. But coming back to the brain type, he's a P. He's not a J. He's not overthinking it. I got this. I'm gonna have some fun. I'm shooting. Braden used to say, I love the athlete where there's 5 seconds left on the clock. They want the ball. They're not thinking, oh, I better pass it. I got the ball.
Speaking of Michael Jordan, you were telling a story. He couldn't use the balance board. You have a balance board downstairs in the exercise area, and his teammates were laughing at him because he couldn't use the balance board. And the next thing you know, practice. That
Yeah.
so
We have one of those downstairs. I should be able to tell you the name. I think the name is Tex. Older gentleman, go to a sports banquet. I'm in charge of a team. We have a junior college team, so I got to really oversee that. We're a younger coach, Chad Burial, for many years, 5 out of 10. So anyway, go to this banquet. He speaks for like well over an hour and a half, and everybody's complaining. But yeah, he said that Michael Jordan, people were making fun of him, that he couldn't balance. And the way you get down in a defensive position, that's a great drill. Have 2 players. I think a lot of kids should play basketball and never shoot, just to watch how they play defense, nose to nose. And, we do that on the tennis court. Let me see if I can get this right. So this coach, he says, and he was a guy who coached junior high, then high school. And that's somebody, you don't just go straight to the top. I heard Jim Courier and Lindsay Davenport saying that, Andy Murray hopefully starts to teach. I think Andy Murray could do wonders. You got to love Andy Murray for this reason and that reason, but I don't think that would be Andy's forte to start working with kids at the elementary age. So, but anyway, you see the guy goes, I coached a team. On the bench, I had slow, sloppy basketball. I had short, I had spastic, and I had stupid. That was my starting 5. And the punchline was, and on the bench, I had sick and sorry. And, I love that about Braden, I want you to show me the kid who puts the ice cream in the cone in the middle of their forehead, and can you get them to hit the ball? And that's a big problem. Rocky 1, pretender, contender. There's so much pretension. I'm going to pretend that I'm a tennis teacher, and I'm going to go and recruit people who can already play. in all fairness to college coaches, I know they have to recruit. And I think there's lots of great coaches, but can they take that blue chip and say, hey, we're taking your freshman year. I would love to see that happen in tennis. We're taking your freshman year and you're not even going to play. I think you've heard me say that, and it's totally backwards in college tennis in many situations. Like, no, you can just come in January. We will do whatever you want. You come in January, we'll put you in the lineup. Then the coach knows, well, this kid's going to win a singles match for us. He may win a doubles match, help us win a doubles match. That's 2 points. We only need 4. And, they just really suck up to that kid. And it should be like, no, we'd like to have you be part of the program, but when you come to work with us, we got to teach you to serve. We got to teach you to return. I think you should be recruiting kids who have the it thing, that they can just compete, and they can take criticism and they really want to get better. But I think the age-old problem is people want to win. They want to win now. And, Raven Klassen said that well on a podcast. I think it's second time he was on. Listeners, Raven Klassen, he got to be top 10 in the world, doubles. He got to Wimbledon final. That's a pretty good tennis player.
Spent a lot of time with you.
He rebuilt his game. He was number 1 junior in South Africa, and we have it all documented on film. It's not like he totally changed everything, but he Band-Aided. He definitely had major surgery in some areas. And remember, he had a break point, a key break point in the Australian Open, and that backhand volley was the old one. He went straight down. Had a chance to win a major. But he said that the fruit at the end of or the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, or the fruit's out on the limb, that people in the coaching circles, they want recognition now. And, when you're working early childhood development, and I think that's something that also too is tennis math is how long does a player, do you stay the course and start the course? Excuse me. Dyslexia. Did you start this course and stay the course? Did you stay with it? And most people, they just don't get it. You got to keep doing the basics. Just John Woodenisms. The fundamental doesn't change. The speed at which you have to execute the fundamental changes. For the young coaches that listen to these, is that, okay, well, I heard it before. Yeah, but it's on the tip of your tongue. Can you say it? I think that's where, I told a story today when I was in prep school. We had a teacher, I was taking Latin 3. My mother told me it was really going to help me out. My mother was wrong about a few things. But anyway, this guy's teaching and he's filming himself. He's critiquing himself. And we used to sneak up and look in the window, go, this is absolutely crazy. But his goal was to get away from to move up out from the prep school. He wanted to become a professor at Dartmouth, and he did. But I was the idiot. We were thinking, the guy's such an idiot. He's teaching the class. No one's in there. He's filming himself. What else you got?
What about the coaching player paradigm on the pro tour? You mentioned college coaching. What do you think? What do you think coaches are telling their players? What do you think the relationship between the player and the coach is like on the pro tour?
Well, first of all, how long have you been with a player? That's a great story about Emma Navarro. I think she was in junior high. She's had a coach that long. That, to me, makes a lot of sense. No, you certainly can get some outside input. Dimitrov, I think he was ahead of Monfils today. 7 coaches in the first 7 years. That doesn't make much sense. Emma, I can't pronounce her name correctly, from the back, Radicuna. And
our Brit. Thank goodness.
You need to have those Beatles around. So, switch coaches way too much in the beginning. For me, it's like, no. Is the dad totally wrong to say, well, we'll take a little bit from this coach and a little bit from that coach? Definitely you need to be open to learning. Vic Braden, he did a lot of work in TV. I mean, he ran the Pro Tour with Jack Kramer. His thing was, Nastasi's playing. His coach goes up to him and says, Ilya, what do you like to drink when you're playing indoors? And I tell people all the time, and I've been fortunate enough to be around that level. And I think it's a brain drain at every level. Really? Did they really just say that? I think that one of the most refreshing things going on right now, I don't know how he did today, but Tommy Paul, he's watching an old film. Tommy Paul has always been a baseliner. I was told, I've got some inside scoop, that all the people they tested at the USTA, that like, okay, Tommy Paul's, he's the quickest, he's the best athlete, of all these, what do they call it in NFL, the combine.
Yeah.
That's what's great about the young player that Ivan Osretz knows, Alex Mickelson. So they have the next gen. He finishes last and everything. It doesn't face him.
Not one bit.
That guy's a gamer. No, so Mark Hamlin said it recently, is that he thinks a lot of times that the pros on the coaches on the tour, they're afraid to say anything. Craig Carton, got to talk all day and say nothing. The late Andy Brandy. I love Brandy. I was hanging out with Brandy with all these kids at the Miami Open, and I go, I guess I'll hang out with Brandy. I say, Brandy, I'll just be over here in the shadows. And it was Martina. And I mean, I could listen to Martina, but it was Lisa Raymond, Martina. Andy was one of them. There's two other coaches. And it was at that level, they're just the elite of the elite. They've already won majors. So I think, okay, being the confidant, being the mentor, we got to get everything, okay, relaxed. And, you just, it's way overrated on what they're doing as far as, I think Joe Public thinks that, they're going to go in and, change their forehand, change their backhand. But I love the story with Brad Gilbert. He's going out, from Manhattan to Flushing, and he's got Andy Roddick, and he totally diffuses. He's going to play the final that day, and he just totally diffuses it because he gets, those guys are both jocks, and they're arguing about whether it's Nebraska football or Oakland A baseball, and oh yeah, by the way, the match, this is what you should do. Totally diffuse it. So, but there is an art to that. One of my favorite stories is John Robinson. He coached football at USC. This is important. Yeah, we have kids that are just always talking about technique. I mean, first impressions are everlasting. This young kid from Utah. Can you give me an answer that's not based on technique? So John Robinson is coaching Southern Cal, the Trojans, and the big Coliseums. It's just a movie script. The ball's on the 1 yard line. There's like 1 second left on the clock. There's time for one play, and they call a timeout. So the quarterback comes over, and the assistants, everybody's like, "This is it." And this is what Robinson said. He put his arm around him, and he said, "Look at this crowd. There's 100,000 people watching this." And he goes, "There's millions of people watching at home. We make the play. We're number one. We're the national champions." He said, "I'll tell you what, you call your own play." Totally diffused it. That's coaching genius. So the guy goes out, and now he's just freaking out. What play am I going to call? What play am I going to call? He's just thinking about executing the play. He wasn't thinking about winning, So, no, there's a lot for that. But I think with you can get on YouTube, and Tracy Austin's very good. I think she's the best. But you can get on YouTube and you can watch the Brad Gilberts and the Matt Feenliners, these guys that have great tennis minds. They're Boris Becker. I mean, they're at corporate outings and they're talking about forehands and backhands. And I one time was with Vic Braden at the Roosevelt in New York. I said, "Vic, come with me." And Arthur Ashe was going to speak, but he was late. So they asked Vic if he could just hang around and start a little bit later. So Vic said, "Yeah." I said, "Vic, come with me." So I got him to hide. I said, "You're standing right here, Vic." I'm in my 20s. I said, "Vic, this way you can just listen to everything." And because he gets out in the hallway, he's not going to get to come into the lecture. Everybody's talking to him. Back in the 70s, 80s, he was a rock star. So I remember being at the US Open with him and finally say, "Vic, I'll see you at the hotel." He was this very, very well known, had a TV show, a very funny guy. And he's very good friends with Arthur Ashe. And then later, Arthur Ashe came out and did a educational clip or video. You could see it online.
With Stan
Smith, yeah.
Tennis our way.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, he would say something about the serve and say something about the serve. And Vic would say, "Artie, that's not true. Poor Artie. No, Artie." How many people called Arthur Ashe Artie? But but yeah, when Stan Smith, class act as well, when they were there for filming Our Way, and I think that touring pros at that level, I mean, those guys each won Wimbledon and the U.S. Open. They're pretty comfortable in their own skin, so they say, "Yeah, I don't know that." My experience has been, especially with the macho male ego, it's much tougher to deal with a teaching pro, especially the teaching pro. I mean, they're not happy in their own skin in the sense that, well, they're fighting. And it's a battle in tennis. Is that you're so much measured by if you played the game. Howard Cosell, Jockocracy. I never played the game. It's like, well, you don't have a speaking part if you didn't play the game. But if people do their homework, that's not true. I mean, you don't have to be. I think Braden's right. Is that if you expect your students to play, you should expect yourself to play. You should have gone through the same thing that your students have. First time I had a forehand with an umpire in the stands or an umpire in the chair, it wasn't Wimbledon. It was the Boca Raton City Championships. And the first forehand I hit was like a field goal. I was like, whoa. Plus, I was taught the wrong grip on the forehand, so I had a little bit of roll. What else you got?
You mentioned Andy Brandy.
Yeah.
Joe Brandy coached Pete Sampras, I think, during his first U.S. Open win, the Brandy brothers. You were able to work for Welby Van Horn through Andy Brandy.
Yeah, I'd been in tennis for 5 years, so I'm working for All American Sports, and I get shipped out to. I was teaching juniors at Deerfield Academy. Remember, like it was yesterday. He called me in and go, "You've been traded." I was having so much fun at the junior camp. I was running the Gong Show, the unknown comic. You can go to YouTube and check out the Gong Show, listeners. So, so I went to Stowe, Vermont. I was there. I remember it was in the late 70s, and Jimmy Connors ends up winning the tournament as a tune-up to the U.S. Open. Exposure. But again, having been in tennis for 5 years, I met some really good people, and I was reading and hanging in there, just being a tennis junkie. But it was really Andy and Joe. I tell people I've been in tennis 5 years, and I finally met some people like, whoa, these guys, this is a little different. And at that time, Andy's 2 years older than me, so we're in our 20s. But Joe was the big brother, and let's listen to Joe. And look at his grip, look at his racket face, look at the body position. And both those guys, I mean, just the experiences they had are just amazing. I remember teaching tennis with Andy Brandy, and very shortly after that, he was working with Bonnie Kuduzak. I think I probably said that in their tribute to him. She was a gymnast. She became top 10 in the world. She was so unorthodox. I tell that to college coaches all the time. That's more of an art form. When you got to start working with an 18-year-old, it's more of an art form. But if the people that I've been trained by, can you teach tennis fast? It's like, okay, this is how you do it. Boom, boom, boom. Here's the problem. And then you fix it. But now we got to drill. Then can you inspire? That's very important. Can you instruct someone to do it? But then can you inspire someone? Like the college player who's with us this week there's a gal who's from the same city, Raleigh, and you could do these drills together. And I just tell them like this it would be so dumb for you. You want to be a pro player, it'd be so dumb for you to say, well, I'd like to just be able to hit as a sparring partner and get some pocket money. No. They could go out and do 50% tennis. I mean, this young girl could come and charter matches, and they could do all those drills. That doesn't happen so much anymore. Years ago, touring pros would just go home, and they would just practice with whatever they could. Famous story with Rod Laver. He's practicing with Colin Dibley, who was a police officer. I had a chance to be around Dibley in Boca at one point. He was giving Karina Murario a serve lesson. Alvin Murario, just serve my daughter for 45 minutes, and then you can do whatever you want. But he was a police officer, and he had a huge serve. And Laver said, you should try the Pro Tour. And he ended up having a very good career on the Pro Tour. Well, you have somebody like Rod Laver say, hey, I think you could play out there. I can ramble forever here. What else you got?
More Welby Van Horn, the 3H system of balance. You're really big on his system. You also have, or are going to have his book on your website soon.
Yeah, Ed Weiss. He just hasn't got that done yet, but I think as a collector's item, it's not being It's like tennis, Braden Tennis for the Future, Tennis 2000. If you hit the ball on balance, you had a good contact point. If you hit the ball on balance, you were using gravity, just letting the racket free fall. You're now recruiting muscles. Welby Van Horn, you need to be athletic. You need to be, when you're off balance, you need to be in an on balance position. You can have people, okay, we taught you how to volley. Let's see you just hop on your left foot and hit a forehand volley. Drop, do it on your right foot. You have to really challenge people when it comes to balance. But the system of just teaching, you've seen us do it. What's it take? 45 minutes to teach someone the body balance position. Then you add the checkpoints. And I think people get stuck and they think, well, that's not how the pros play. Well, if we took some high-speed film of this young kid, Alcaraz, and you just looked at it, it's all there. I remember being in the nursing home with Welby, and he's watching the Fed. Welby knew he made some mistakes. He called, but when he played, it was wooden rackets on a grass court. By the second week, players were wearing spikes. So he called the composite grip, the almost continental, the championship grip. So he had little kids up once they turned 15, he would convert them, but he'd have them on an Eastern forehand grip. But he knew that it was amazing. He's such a late veteran intellectual that he did it all without film. Braden brought science to it because he with film, but also, he became a self-made biomechanist. Gideon Ariel and Vic Braden were great for each other. So yeah, on balance, do you play front foot tennis, a race to the bounce? You got to put it all together. Like this guy Medvedev, he's gangly, but he runs like a dog to the ball. Ferrer, that's what his nickname was, Pero, the dog. Jimmy Connors, get behind the ball. I go, pet peeve, kids don't run after the ball. Lynette Federer, Roger, what's your mother's tennis rule? Run after every ball. Kids call the ball with their eye. Well, that's going to be out. I'm not running after it. And you will be slow. Run after every ball. But the kid with the tennis, no bench, brain mentality, no hustle. Okay? Mom and dad, it's a real negative that, the kid, they're going down the road for the first time with their kid. I always ask parents, okay, you got two kids? Well, how old is the first one? Well, he's 14. Well, you got 14 years experience with one kid. How old is the second one? Well, they're 10. Well, you got 10 years experience with two kids. Kids don't come with directions, but with, we run after every ball. Play with anybody and everybody. Get in position. No, all the pros play open stance. You need to be able to hit off every stance. But, you have to conquer basics to progress. It's the same as, math. We always say tennis is like math. You got to count, you got to add, you got to subtract. But people, I would say, they're in a hurry to go nowhere fast. Who wins the race? Kids have heard all these things from the parents. The hare and the tortoise, the rabbit, the turtle. Turtle wins the race. So no, Welby on balance.
Yeah.
Hit and hold. And all this thing about nutrition, can you get in position? Fitness, can you get in position to hold your balance? It's a crisis in tennis because people are looking at the recovery. It's very athletic. It's very individual. And the follow through is gone. People aren't even talking about it. It's highway robbery, thievery. This is what happens at the hit. That's not what happens at the hit. We're giving out all sorts of free content. I don't like to think of myself as an internet guru. I'm not crazy about that, where people are making tennis remotely, like some guy from Montana, wherever, Idaho, Ohio, wherever, New Hampshire. That's here in the States. Yeah, I'm charging $200 for a videotape analysis. Can you get anybody in your backyard to play? That's one good thing about Europe is that, okay, these people play at this club. We're part of the club. We're loyal to the club. Then there's teams that represent the club. People come out and watch. The largest economy in the world, capitalism is not perfect. I will just shop elsewhere.
Yeah.
I will find somebody who will tell me what I want to hear.
Don't-
Another question. Go ahead, sir.
Don't mistake the recovery for the follow through. You just said that, and sometimes it's tough to see those. Sometimes it's tough to see those flaws when you're watching in real time. We come into the video room. Had a girl here hits the ball really, really well. I even said to you, "Boy, she's got a great serve." We look at the slow-mo, we look at the analysis, and first thing you say, she doesn't have that power line, 45 degrees going out this way or this way, and in real time you don't see that. But then when you slow things down, then a few of those tennis myths go away.
You got to do the routines. Kobe Bryant, he had the routines. Get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, start doing basic drills. So he said, well, you're just doing basic drills. Yeah, that's the reason. That's the reason I'm great. So yeah, you got it. The human eye sees 24 frames per second related to a camera. So the girl, when she hits, she's going left and she's going backwards. She's going 2 directions are counterproductive. But almost every kid, the safe bet, they were palm up. It's logical. They take lessons and the coach says, swing left to right. You're 245s. It's just hard to conceptualize. You're going to swing left to right if you're right-handed. And some of our students who have, they're selling tennis instruction online and like, well, we invented left to right. No, you didn't invent anything. So is the racket going up at a 40? About everything's going up at a 45. So lower body, upper body, arm, and racket. At the end of the power line, that's where you generate the maximum amount of force, is the tennis ball. And we'll show people, well, you have the power line, but when you hit the ball, I remember Braden, I hit the ball well enough to be a hitting partner when he worked with people like the late Tim Gullickson and a few others. Steve, you're rubbing your chest against the cement. But once you see it, you can see it. And then you can never unsee it. So you have to train your eye. If you use a lot of video, certainly you still have to see the video. But if you're using video all the time, Yvonne, who's been with us now, it's going on 2 years, but say 18 months, he told one of the interns here, he goes, it's just like learning French. You've been dropped in France. You've got to learn, this is where you are. Spanish. Hola, que tal? Bien tú. Como se llama? And so yeah, you got to use film. And you could like say Tsitsipas. That was a great podcast. He grew up, he was taught out of Braden's book. And his left foot, that front foot, but the human brain, if you do something over and over again, you're not going to reach your max. But there's a young player, not to mention his name, but oh man, this kid, big guy, lefty, bombs the serve. He's bouncing around. He's past the futures level, but I don't see him getting out of the challenger level. But he looks better now because he's smoother. That's how myelin works. Encode the neural pathways through repetition, and then the speed and smoothness of movement. By his strokes, you watch what the racket head's doing. It's like, watch what the body's doing. Big Braden, the left hand is a culprit. So many people, they just fly with the left hand open. I like something. I just think, okay, I'm going to repeat this. I'm going to own this. Dion Krupi, I taught Dion to teach tennis, and I'm sure he's got 40 years in the game now. He doesn't like to see kids hit with their warm-up open. He's always said, zip up your warm-up. And, if you let a kid hit with their warm-up open and they're on their forehand, their left arm's flying, so is their warm-up. I mean, come on. The body's the leader. So goes the body, so goes the racket. Your racket's going left. But that, for a 3 to 6 millisecond hit is 19.1 degrees. You got to understand the geometry of the court. And in our world, okay, you don't know the grips if you don't know 360 divided by 8. In our world, how could you possibly teach tennis if you don't know the dimensions of the court? And, it's like, say, on your son's backhand, the one-hander, if you have a rotating socket or a rising socket, is it swinging like a door at 180 or is it going up like the hood of a car? But, that's where I think if a kid has a comparable experience, that expression, you can't fool a kid. But it's just, we make these, verbose videos, but the number one reason they're made is persuasion. Because if someone is showing up to see us, they've got on an airplane, they've rented a car, they're checking into a hotel. Plus, they're captive prisoner. They're not going to go, well, I've been here for 20 minutes. I'm going to leave. That happens sometimes. I mean, over years ago, that happening to me. But we're not going to tell you what you want to hear. It's not like, Riley DeHart called us what we do, one of our students, the anti-academy. Someone comes to see us and they're a really good player. After they're here for 2 days, if they're going to be here for a year, it's like, okay, we take a little longer studying the game. We're not like who they're going to play. And that's what happens in the tennis industry. That's Nick Bollettieri, who I respect greatly, the late Bollettieri, but that's how it worked. That's how he was married 8 times to 7 women. What a great tool, persuasion. This time it's going to work, honey. But, he went bankrupt a number of times. But Mark McCormick is the guy who really pulled him out and said, hey, and Mark McCormick, he never really wanted to own real estate, but, that Orange Grove in Bradenton is a pretty impressive place now. But it was the magnet. We'll give this kid a scholarship and he'll bring these other kids in. And that's really happening even at the grassroots level. My father's word prima donna. We're treating that kid like a prima donna. He's a long ways from the NHL. What else you got?
Students come here from all over. They have the video work done. They, you've given them the information. I hear you say often the operation was a success, but the patient may die.
Well, 10% is a good number. Less than 10% of kids send us notes. You got to go to work. And the more you have, the less you have. So yeah, if they don't practice, they don't do the routines. A kid should really, okay, you're telling your mom, we need to get a cone. Now in baseball, a kid's going to hit a ball off a tee. They're going to, before it's their turn to bat, they could be in the major leagues and they're going to stand in the on deck circle. So kids don't get what, how's it go? They don't get what they expect to get, what they deserve. And there's 2 million time clubs. You tell someone 1 million times or they do it 1 million times.
Program Plus. You say that quite a bit.
Oh yeah, this is a good review. Thanks. So Program Plus, I don't know a program in the country, junior program, college program. You got to have the plus. Plus is what they do on their own. You practice before practice, you practice after practice. I mean, does the kid have a journal? Does the kid take notes? And the parents, they really should study the content. I was talking to Rob Krychek. A lot of times it's a text message back and forth, but he followed it to the T. We would say, okay, he went to the jungle too soon. He went to Bollettieri's too soon. But what credentials? Austin won Kalamazoo. That's pretty good. I was honored that they invited me to go to the U.S. Open. It's just like so long ago. The kid didn't want to shave, and his father wanted him to shave, and he said, "I don't want to shave. I look so young." I'm trying to think. He played the Argentine, my fact checker, Andres Barbosa. Augustini. I should know his name. So his father goes, "Yeah, I saw him play his opponent. I saw him play 6 months ago." His father says, "Is he any good?" I go, "Well, he played Agassi. How did he do? He won. He just beat Agassi." But Kalamazoo, All-American, won the NCAAs, top 100 in the world, number 1 in the world in doubles, Davis Cup, Olympian. It's a pretty good resume. But they made their car a classroom. They got one of those portable backboards. They did the sock. They did the cone. And it's just like I tell people, you want to ask Roger Federer what he did when he was 8. Don't ask Roger. You got to ask Robert or Lynette. His dad knows. Austin knows too. Both of them have been guests on our podcast. But Program Plus, what are you doing on your own with people? They grow away from it. Now, if people studied other sports, I've been to the Frozen Four several times. And I was fortunate enough to be at a Stanley Cup Game 7. The warm-ups are the same. They're doing what you did at Pee Wee's. It's instead of going in and out of cones, they're going in and out of pucks, or passing back and forth. And wouldn't they do it at a different speed? My brother used to say that. Pee Wee hockey and pro hockey, same thing. One's at a different speed. But you got to, you think it, you got to ink it. You want to be a great player, you got to mark down what you do. And it doesn't take long. It doesn't take long. I thought, but yeah, Program Plus. Braden used to say about the Russian girls, you tell them to practice 2, they practice 3. You tell the American girls, they'll go an hour and a half. We're from the land of abundance. And I mean, I spent a lot of time, tennis Europe, 14 and unders. You can look at the draw, the better players are from the countries that have the lesser economy. Hungry dog hunts best. But what are you doing on your own? And now it's more difficult for a kid now because that phone is a thief of their time. When I was a kid, it black and white TV, 3 stations. People played outside.
You were the remote control.
Yeah. I'll explain that, the remote control. My mother we'd drive through neighborhoods and my mother would say, they must be inside playing with a butler. But yeah, the remote control is that there's only 3 stations and there's 2 football games on. I had to lay down by the TV, change the channel. And then you're in a room where you don't have hey, if you want to be in here, you're not goofing around. 3 generations watching a football game. That doesn't happen now. We got the Englishmen back here. They still have those pubs over there. Where, Coco Golf, that's got to be a powerful thing that at one time, maybe it's still that case where her 2 teachers are her grandmothers. I do think that grandparents, even parents, got to get kids to listen about, how did what did the parents do to be in their position and how hard have they worked? And, it's a fact that the top players are children of immigrants. It's just case after case. It's unbelievable because the kids see their kid learning a new language, just a whole new way of life.
Is that one of the reasons, or that I think you mentioned the U.S. is number 21 in the world now in tennis?
Tom Lausick told me that. He's a guest on our podcast.
Yeah.
He's a great guy, brainiac. Actually, he has a couple of students who just came here as they walked in before we started. Yeah, anything that can be measured. So per capita.
Yeah.
We have quite a few people. I hear all the time, well, we don't have the athletes. Dennis Van Caca de Toros. A little Spanish.
Yeah.
So we don't have the talent, or all our talent goes to football, basketball. That's just not true. I mean, we don't teach well enough. And we're not working hard enough. Dave Fish, it's competition and it's instruction. The Harvard coach, retired Harvard coach. And he did some hard yards and he's not happy how that turned out. The UTR, a lot of positives, but it should have been for ageless and genderless tennis and be able to play more tennis with less money. So making tennis more accessible and more affordable. But instruction is more difficult to regulate. We should have forum tournaments for little kids. We should have target tournaments. And in this country, the USTA, governing body of tennis, they need information. It sounds very boastful, but I just think of John Embry just retired. So many years, everybody loved the guy. He's with the USPTA. I met with him and said, Mark Twain, 15,000 people. I can learn from each and every member of the USPTA. But here are some things that maybe a handful of people in the organization know. It's like court contractors. They're the ones who know how long the tennis court is. Let's go through this for a second. 34 feet. So a young kid comes today and he can hit right-handed, left-handed. People are asking questions. He can answer the questions. He's got stage fright. Presentation's not that great. But he knew 82 and a half, rounded off to 83. He knew 65.9, rounded off to 66. And by the way, on our course, Tennis Intelligence Applied, I get that wrong. I got 69.5. And, we're giving out information. We need to, we're going to try to do that starting September. So
I think Andy Fitzell gave you a hard time for that.
Andy Fitzell. You give me a hard time about not mentioning short ball range. With you got to love it though. You got to love criticism. So anyway, 83 minus 66 is 17 approximately. Chris Everett's on TV. I mean, Chris Everett just won and won and won, but and whether she would articulate that, but she definitely knew that. I mean, he hit through the court. So the difference is 17 feet one way, 17 feet the other ball length. And where's the second bounce of your ground stroke go? So there's a gal here. She's playing one of the Power 5 conferences. And I said, you're playing against people that won't take the ball out of the air. Braden, how could you lose? You just hit high and deep, and you be patient. You wait for the short ball. Come in. And, Braden spent all sorts of time with Bill Jacobson. You come in and you do the math. I always think about, again, what would the players from yesteryear, well, the game has changed so much. The game has evolved. And it's so easy to say that. So easy to say that. What else you got?
Just the application of the information, the convincing the players to use the information. Here's the logic. Here's the math. Are you willing to go out and apply it? And that's really the tennis intelligence applied. I remember my mother always telling me, son, you need to apply yourself. And I never knew what she meant. I think now I do a little bit more.
Andy Fitzell, a good Mormon boy. We don't swear on our podcast. Our another podcast coach. Andy started the podcast. Got to get him back on this thing. So anyway, on a regular basis. So anyway, Barbosa says, you guys should swear. If you swear, your heart rate goes down. The coach will go, everybody's heard the S word, the F word. But, their T-shirt, they do this well in Texas. We're going to bust our butt so we can kick your butt. We're not going to say we're going to bust our ass so we can kick your ass. But with that, people don't go with imagery. They don't go with logic, science, or imagery. They just want to know who wins. So that's the age-old problem, now in junior tennis, people are recruiting. In college, for example, say a player recruits players to here, and they take them to here. And now, I know some people are listening to this, is that now, but their opponent, that coach who's driving the bus, glorified bus driver, he's got the golden, he's got the blue chips. And yeah, another example of how winning's confusing. That's what I like about D3 tennis. No scholarships. I tell junior tennis players all the time, you got to realize that coaches, Patino, what was Patino? What's Patino's first name?
Rick
Patino. Don Meyer used to make fun of Rick Pitino. He goes, well, he's got a notebook on, how what the guard does in this situation. The next notebook is on recruiting, but every other notebook is recruiting. Jim Valvano, the kid from Wyoming, late Valvano, kid from Wyoming, he's a great basketball player. He asked the 18-year-old, what do you want to study? He says, oceanography. He said, Valvano goes, you look right at him, goes, we have the best program in the country. And I have it backwards. You're coaching at Wyoming, and some kid is one of the best basketball players in the country. So you're in landlocked Wyoming, and you tell a kid, we have the best oceanography program in the country. Then you call him and go, can we at least have an elective on oceanography? So recruit. With circle back, ask that question one more time, the last point you just asked.
Tennis intelligence applied?
Yeah, but you asked about application. Oh, the winning. So yeah, again, with what was the score? And the kid as well as the parent is who wants to hit with who. We've had so many people come to visit here. Been here 1 year. We have some kids that have not visited here, and they don't have to visit here, but it's da-dum, big brain, hey, stupid. And they don't need to visit here for information on tennis. They don't need to, it's not like, well, I need to come and who am I going to play with? I'm going, well, you've been a 10-5 for 5 years. I mean, you need some more. You need some more Kool-Aid. It's character 101. It's just character 101. And people get stuck. I mean, we've had kids that seriously, they've been 11. They've been an 11 UTR, which is a decent player. And they're just entering a sophomore year in high school. 3 years later, they're the same. They're the same because the kid already thinks they're a player. And like, who am I playing with? And, I mean, do you still go to the track? Do you still go to the backboard? You do baskets? You do all the routines. And so tennis becomes very cliquey that way. It's amazing. Amazing. And I don't like stratification. You see how we do it here is that, well, who's going to be in my group? We're all together. Everybody shows up. Patrick, he's Jeffreyon. Patrick Jeffreyon. These guys are 2-3 names. But guy's got great passion. He's from Quebec. Now he's coaching Ontario. So he's with Miron Man. And he loves the summer because in the summer, they all come at one time and they're there for the day. Well, old man winter rolls around in the Great White North. This kid has a 2-hour block. This kid has a 2-hour block. And there's the business of tennis. It's not like they have a police officer. They should have a coach who just makes sure when the session's over, what do you do? That place has, of course, in the wintertime, they got indoor pool, outdoor pool. They got indoor track. They got a gym. I always tell the kids for that club, you're going to turn left and go get a muffin. Charge it to mommy's account. Why don't you go right and go to those empty squash courts and then go to work? I think also being the bad cop, good cop. Parents, most of the time, they cancel each other out. Opposites attract is that kids can't do the good old-fashioned push-ups. They just get down like a Marine and just rattle off the push-ups.
I love when you were, you had two of the boys run. One was my younger son who was here. And as he ran by, you told him, repeat after me, I love pain. I love pain.
Yeah, I mean, with, but, you got to, misery enjoys company. So tennis players, it's just amazing. Junior tennis players say, okay, we're going to do some leg lifts. John Posier, I tease people, you're my favorite student. You're my favorite student. My mother used to always say, don't ever use this. Oh, that's my best friend. Because you're going to offend somebody. You're going to have a lot of really good friends. You don't have one best friend. So Posier, he could do the plank for like over 8 minutes. He could not inflict pain, but he could endure pain. But let everybody know, it's okay. Let's everybody do this, and it's like, it's amazing. Get your legs together, 6 inches off the ground. How long can you hold your legs there? You say, okay, how do you watch TV? We play sports movies. Now we're not doing it now because Wimbledon's on. You play sports movies and you have to say, hey, phones away. They're not engaged. Jim Lair, total engagement. Kid's watching a movie, he's on his cell phone. Then you ask him afterwards, how was the movie? Good. They don't talk about the movie. They're right back on their cell phone. So put those cell phones away.
Yeah. Coach, what about the five E's: exposure, environment, enjoyment, exercise, education?
Let me rattle those off. I don't have many original thoughts, but that's something I put together a long time ago. Enjoyment, education, experience, and you can switch around environment and exposure. I put environment last. Peter Burwash had the 5 E's. One was exploitation, emergency. I don't have that by memory, but let me get your attention. This is how it works, especially educating parents. But it's not hit and giggle enjoyment. It's serious fun. It's improvement. Okay, are we getting better? And then the next is education, and that's the weak link. Tennis math. That's the weak link. Certainly, okay, we're going to measure push-ups, but okay, we're going to measure good reps versus bad reps. It's amazing. I don't want to mention any names, Haroon, but he shifts his head every time when he serves. Well, how long have you been playing? Almost every kid, adults too, but you just shift their head. The brain's a second ahead of the hand. The head goes. the inch for inch, the heaviest part of the body. Then I'm not a biomechanist, but the song, the neck bone's connected to the backbone's connected to the hip bone. And it's just teeter-totter. It's like, there it goes. It's falling down. So experience. I share this often, is that a lot of people teaching tennis, they have, even though they've been teaching tennis 20 years, they have 1 year experience because they keep doing it the same. People need to have, in junior tennis players, reactive and reflective thought. Go through the match. And sometimes, okay, we're going to wait 24 hours before you talk to somebody who lost, but you're going to go through the match. You got to give feedback. Environment, obviously, you want a healthy environment. We had this place we taught at for 3 years, 5 miles from the USTA, Happy Lane. What a name. That was the name of the street, Happy Lane. And with that, we put a $50,000 fence around the place. It was already a fence, but we had this big white fence around the place. Parents loved it. It's fair enough, because of, so much instant news, so many TV outlets. There's always been bad stuff going on. But kids are rightfully underprepared, rightfully overprotected, but as a result, they're underprepared. I tell parents that where you were at 18, your kid will be there at 28, even though they're more advanced in this way and that way. But it's just culture. It's just what happens. But but exposure. Most people really haven't experienced high level play. To be exposed to a work ethic as well, exposed to being around athletes. The 5 E's. What else you got?
I think these two kind of tie together. Mind, mobility, mechanics, run, hit, compete.
I think run, hit, compete. First time I heard that was from Chuck Creasy. Gotta love Creasy. Creasy, I don't think he's crazy about nuts and bolts, but he's been a college coach for absolutely ever, right? He did some junior tennis at the JTCC.
Yeah, Junior Champions Tennis Center.
JCT. Give it to me again. Junior
Champions Tennis Center. I could be wrong. It could be.
Yeah, no. The
Francis Tiafo and a couple other kids were.
They had the big three.
Yeah.
They had Mitchell Frank,
Dennis Kudla,
good. And then Junior Ore.
Yeah, pretty good players.
Yeah, they were all, I believe, top 10 ITF, which is not easy. And Mitchell Frank, he won everything. And even when he started as a freshman, he won the All-Americans, I believe. He won everything from the Easter Bowl to the Banana Bowl, the Toilet Bowl. He won everything. And Kudla was hitting with Nadal one time, and they said, he was being interviewed, is Nadal the most mentally tough player ever? And he said, no, Mitchell Frank is. It's a
great answer.
But Junior Ore, one of our guests on the podcast, played at Princeton, Alex Vukovic. He brought Junior Ore and his grandfather to us. They were going to stay for 4 days. They stayed for 4 months. And we have it all documented. Bjorn Frantangelo won French juniors that year. And then at Kalamazoo, junior said all I did was hit off a cone. But certainly I knew Bjorn's game, and he played him at Kalamazoo, and he was just in. But I not too long ago saw that junior playing in the Battle of Boca doubles. He played some at A&M. Kudla, immigrant, Ukraine, I believe. But he hit the backboard all the time as a little kid. My story is they couldn't be pulled off the backboard. My son actually had a win, a big thing for him, anybody. He beat Mitchell Frank. But Mitchell Frank, Braden went to the JTCC. We got pigeonholed. They love Vic, but, you'll talk to the younger kids. And I remember Vic watching Mitchell Frank. I understand he's coaching now. But he had some holes in his game. But he won, but he didn't have the game to play at the pro level. my son played so many times with Ore because we trained him. I remember my son at one time, he was 2 points away from beating Kudla. Then he didn't get it done, had a sitter volley. And then, it was, that's what happens at certain levels is that the sun came down. It was a tournament in Northern Cal. And then, the temperature changed and the court was slower. And he didn't do so well in the third. But those three, I'm trying to think of the guy's name. Should just know, should rattle off. He's had so much to do with those three. But as now the general manager, it's the tip of my tongue, senior moment, losing it. But if you took those three together, if you took, Kudla had the best technique, and then Mitchell Franks, how tough he was mentally, and then the speed of Ore. They were all really good players. But, parents would say it about their kids, if you could put them all in, my mother used to say, you could put them all in, all their characteristics in one bag and you mix it up and they have the best of each other, but it doesn't work out that way.
Tiebreaker test. I'm a big fan of the tiebreaker test, and I've heard you say, how do we develop players? How do we develop programs? How do we develop coaches? The tiebreaker test.
Yeah, we had a girl from Baylor University earlier in summer. She did it one day. Tiebreaker test won, but we did it to a set. You get one serve. You have to spin it in. Tiebreaker test 3. You got to hit it, and it's got to land 3 feet up on the back fence. Now we put these pickleball nets in the back, and it's got to bounce over the pickleball net. That's a pretty good serve. And then you rip the ball at them, and they've got to hit targets. You can mix the targets up, but there's very little tennis played in tennis. It's a tragedy of unforced errors. And that's where the kids downstairs learning to chart, they don't know the plus minus. Well, if you only miss 35% and your opponent missed 45%, okay, that's being nice at a really low level. I mean, it gets up to, 95% plus, or at the point ends in an unforced error. Oh, that was a great match. Oh, back and forth, ground stroke, somebody misses. There's no approach shots, no conventional approach volleys. There's no appearances, there's no volleys at the net, there's no overhead. Somebody misses a ground stroke. But you watch it and it's like, oh, this is good. Oh, they're running, they're fighting, they're keeping all sorts of balls in play. But it is a test. And how that started for me, I was working for All American Sports, and I said, there's got to be more to it than this. You're very little orientation, you're put on a tennis court. And that was me. I was the auctioneer. Forehand cross court, backhand cross court, pro shot down line, now a volley, now an overhead. And it comes back to the intern and say, well, we're just going to tie you to a ball basket and you just feed. And Joe Public, tennis consumer, USA, thinks, okay, that's tennis. Okay, we're going to get one basket of balls. We're going to get a feeder. Hopefully they played a little high school tennis. They have a personality. And then you do the math. Okay, we're going to pay that kid $20 an hour. The people on the other side are going to pay $20 an hour, but there's going to be 6 of them. So that's $100 profit. Oh, we're going to get 6 of those courts going. Well, that's a $600 profit. And those numbers are low now. But, to me, I think a college coach, if they have the court space, especially outdoor courts, you just have constantly one of those courts. We got to get Dave Jordan. Someone asked me just the other day, a young kid from Utah, so dedicated, asked me about the boomer, the ball machine, the talking ball machine, with a video with a computer. Dave Jordan, guy loves tennis, played D3 tennis, University of Rochester. His ability, his skill is robotics. And his boomer, it should be so popular. 3 different times, we've had a boomer. We should get a boomer up here. With boomer doesn't work so well outside because of the trees and the shade. He'd work well in these indoor courts. We're like teaching in a forest outdoors. But boomer, you can play boomer. It feeds you the tiebreaker test, and it goes up different levels, different speeds. Can you hit the target? Then just how you tell people, okay, let's go through the size of the service box. It's 13.5 by 8 by 21. It's the size of a small living room. You put a couch in that service box, big TV, a couple end chairs, coffee table, bookshelves in the corner. But can you get that little yellow ball in that box? But, if people come up with an open racket face, Vic Braden, World War II, they're going to be dead in the water. That comes from the Marines, the PT boats, storming the beach of Normandy, running into gunfire, and so many things. I mean, I could ramble forever. I was at Patrick Mouratoglou's place in Paris, the place he rented before he built it. What a genius. He's got that place right by Monaco where the pros can just travel 25 minutes in the tax haven where they're not paying taxes. They live in Monaco and they come over. It's free everything. Free. You want a court, you want food, you want a masseuse, it's free everything. So I'm at his place with my son, and you knew anything pretty quickly. You go, hey, Patrick, let me show you this. He told me, he goes, you're all about tennis math. Tennis is art. And there's a girl, I should be able to tell you her name, but she's 60 in the world. And I go, she will never pass the Tiebreaker test. Feed her 3 balls. Ba-boom, forehand. Ba-boom, backhand. Approach shot. Ba-boom. Of course, she stops. It's not an approach shot. She moves in and she rips it. But I just put my son Connor in front. He's maybe 15, 16 at the time. So he could hit the ball a little bit. And I said, all right, but I just cranked the volleys at her. And I mean, she had the elbow glued against her upper body, racket face was open. And, we just went through it several times and said, thanks. I said, Patrick, she's not going to hit the broadside of a barn. And that's pro tennis. You won't come in, I won't come in. Vic Braden, let's mail in the scores. Do they have any options? If you're playing somebody who's better from the baseline, like if you only have plan A, do you have plan B? It does take more time to develop an all-court game. But again, Tommy Paul, I'm going to the net. And it's not rocket science to be able to play a volley. But if you could just play one volley deep, singles or doubles. In doubles, you got to hit 2 balls. If you can make your serve and make 1 volley, now you're side by side with your partner. Once again, you do the math. But, people go forever without going forward. What else?
Going back to the tiebreaker test, I want to say in Vic Braden's Tennis for the Future, in one of the first pages there, he said, tennis is just running, hitting targets with the score.
Well, actually, we added that. Vic's definition is, we can't do anything without mentioning Braden. So his is hitting targets. We just added running, hitting targets with score. So then the 4 parts of tennis, you got the mental, emotional. Let me do it this way. Running is the physical. Hitting is the technical. Hitting the target's the tactical. And then the score is the mental, emotional. Jeff Lewis put it together. Vic used to tell kids, he used to say, kid could come out and we watch him play, and Vic would go, that kid's game, he's got no game. He's lucky to find the bathroom. Vic, when he found out what I was doing, he actually loved it, is that we film it. You film it, the kid can't hit targets. And you're only as good as your weakest shot. The chain's only as strong as the weakest link. And people's games tactically are built around their weakness. Oh no, their game's built around their serve +1. They have to play that way. They can't volley. They've never been up to the net. They've been playing that way in the 10s, the 12s, the 14s. They're hardwired. They're conditioned. And again, Ben Shelton, certainly Patrick Mahomes, he's so athletic, charismatic, got a smile on his face. You serve like that, but if he were to back it up, it's like Kyrgios. Kyrgios can't back up his serve like Sampras could.
You mentioned, speaking of, weakest length, you were talking about Andy Roddick and Jimmy Connors earlier, and obviously Roddick, wow, what an amazing serve and amazing competitor. But if we were to put him up against Jimmy Connors and we, we were on the TV and we were checking the boxes. Okay, serve. Let's say the serve goes to Roddick, but what other other boxes?
You make a checklist. So we're out. What does it say? 50,000 feet looking down. We're in section F eating a hot dog, and Coco Gauff goes to Charlotte, where he's living with his family, and then Brad Gilbert. They've reconnected. They had a little bit of falling out. They're getting. They're both. Andy loves being in in the conversation, he's part of the mix. She goes to work on the serve. Well, Andy had palm up. We have the film where his mother, it was Blanche, who said his serve was pitiful. And he discovered on his own, put the racket here, he was angry, and just boom. And then, he said, the next 15 years, that's how I served. One of the best serves in tennis. So it just makes me think, well, if he learned through self-discovery, which is fine, and I'm sure they can go in and talk about, okay, I mean, she today, the stat was and they showed it, she was doing so well serving wide. Deuce court, serving wide. Goff was doing great. And so I'm sure he's 100%, okay, listen to everybody, but okay, let's just go back to a little tennis math. But again, we're learning from Coco Gauff, fitness. I mean, the Coco Gauff line I love is her father said she would run across broken glass barefoot to get a ball. I was around a lot because I coached this kid, Victor Lillo, when he was deep in tournaments and saw her play many times. And but even way back when, watching her play would have been great for her to go through some basics. I mean, I've watched her little brother play tennis. But again, it's not just having beautiful strokes, and you can play with any grip. I mean, Swiatek has pretty much the same grip. So she's also a great player. No, it's not that anybody's well, that's wrong. This is better. But again, tennis math, efficiency, least amount of moving parts, least amount of muscle recruitment.
Yeah. Speaking of Goff, she does have a sense of enjoyment when she plays, like Alcaraz. You can really tell she loves the battle.
I saw Todd Martin on TV the other day. I think everybody did. Welby Van Horn used to say the prototype of tennis. That guy was good. Was he the quickest cat? I mean, he was so solid. And he said one time that Roger Federer got the again and again and again. He was voted the most popular player among the pros. Pros vote, and Todd Martin was in a position with the ATP, so he hands out the trophy, but he's got the mic and he goes, "How could the guy not be happy? He never loses." But yeah, just thinking about Todd Martin and how he could return serve, how he could transition. It's amazing to me how it doesn't really surface where these players from that we have so many in this country. Now, I've been in so many other countries, but obviously, if you're an American, how's it go? If you speak 3 languages, you're trilingual. You speak 2 languages, you're bilingual. You're American. You speak 1 language, you're American. But I've in the country say, "Hey, tell me what they're saying. Tell me what they're saying." I've done that. I remember Vitek Miras from Poland. What a great player! He was never allowed to travel. He's the same age as Jimmy Connors. And Bud Collins used to always talk about there's Eastern European players that are not getting out to play. I remember being with him at the Orange Bowl, and it's like the guy could speak 6 languages. I say, "Hey, come with me." And it's the same thing in every language. It's the same thing. Come over the ball. You need to come over the ball more. You didn't come over that one enough. The civil engineer, if you come over the ball's going to hit you in the foot.
Todd Martin had a great career. I think he made the finals of the U.S. Open. He was in the semis of Wimbledon, lost to Malavia Washington, I think, who then ended up losing to Richard Krajicek. Who had beat Sampras, I think, that year.
Stan Frankard. Stan Frankard used to come to the Vic Braden Tennis College. I remember one time getting to spend the entire day with Stan Frankard, and he had a lot to do with Dutch tennis. So I like to think that through Stan Frankard, Krajicek, look him up. What a beautiful serve. Beautiful game.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful game. A little bit like Todd Martin, that he wasn't the mover. Sampras was, short, stubby legs. He's 6'1", but his body is kind of like Michael Phelps. His body is perfect for swimming. Richard Krajicek, he got in a little trouble. He now runs the tournament in Rotterdam. So he said, I don't like to watch women's tennis. 75% of the women are fat pigs. Oh, that didn't go over too well. So the very next day, he's got all these microphones in front of him, and he said, "I'd like to apologize. Yesterday, I said that I don't like to watch women's tennis. 75% of them are fat pigs." He goes, "I was wrong. It's 85%." People forget those things. I mean, I probably shouldn't bring it back up because I'm sure he hopes now that people forget. I was at an under 14 tournament in what a beautiful place, the Windmill Cup in the Netherlands. And we had a German kid who got tight. If he had won the match, he would have played Richard Krajicek's son. And the poor kid, so much pressure on this kid. But it was like a mini French Open with the stands all packed. And the young kid we worked with, he lost out on that experience. Let's go a few more questions.
Jimmy Connors. Jimmy Connors, you told us a story of he kept a note from his grandmother in his sock.
Mom 1, Mom 2. Jimmy's got a podcast. I have to confirm, but yeah, I was told, I've met so many people. I've been around Connors a lot. I don't know Connors. Connors wouldn't know me from the Man in the Moon, but last time I saw Connors, I was at a party. He was teaching at the Boca Hotel, and all these people were invited. You know, he was doing these outings where people would come in and pay lots of money to hit some golf balls with Jimmy, go deep sea fishing with Jimmy. And but no, I've been around Connors a bunch. I mean, even back when he played it, Bill Reardon had a tournament in Boca Raton. So I was a tennis bum, Boca Raton. But with Jimmy, with his mother and grandmother were tennis teachers. And, the sock was supposedly, believe in yourself, move your feet, keep fighting. And one of the best Jimmy Connors stories, grew up in St. Louis area. And all these names, Ray Benton, that's who I was thinking about with the JTCC. Oh, yeah. Bill. Gentlemen, what he used to do is he would go out it wasn't fair for girls, nothing was fair for girls in sports and many other things way back when. He'd go and pick out, Jenna was a shortstop. He'd watch some kids play baseball, and this kid's really athletic. And one was Chuck McKinley. And he said, okay, if you play table tennis, you get your kid, put a ping pong table in the garage, and you play with an Eastern forehand, Eastern backhand. You play ping pong this way. So I get ball sense and such. And you come and watch me teach every weekend. Because back in those days, people would just teach as a hobby. And Chuck McKinley won Wimbledon. There's others. That was a hotbed of tennis. But anyway, his brother Chuck, it was Bobby, I should say, his younger brother Bobby, who's in a lot of Hall of Fames as a coach and a lot of Hall of Fames as a player. His son Seth has a lot to do with Babylon. He has for years and years. So with Bobby McKinley, a little older, he beats Jimmy. He's drop shotting and lobbing him. And that's where the skyhook came in. Jimmy plays the skyhook like in cricket. And Glory Connors went right up to him and said, "You will never beat my Jimmy that way again." Just drop shot and lobbed him. So years later, Jimmy Connors playing world team tennis. A lot of people in the room. And Bobby McKinley was teaching or coaching a world team tennis. Jimmy comes in and he goes, "I'll play anybody here but that son of a bitch." So, Joel Trucker, he has a great book, goes way back. Jimmy Connors saved my life. I told Trucker, I said, we should do it. He was on a podcast, What a Tennis Mind. I said, I know more about Jimmy than you do. You think about, all the years just studying Jimmy Connors. But no, I remember getting a chance to be right up close, watching him work with Pancho Seguro. I remember one time he was playing Jan Kuki from Japan. No, I'm sorry. So I'm playing Jan Kuki from Japan. He was playing Wojtek Fibak. And Fibak has a great backhand. And Tiriac was just busting his balls. And he told Jimmy, he said, don't play his forehand. Just keep playing to his backhand. So Jimmy loses his first set. And Tiriac is in the stands. He just looks right at him, you SOB. And then he had to beat him in 3 sets. But, Jimmy Connors, he would come out with his leather grip and pour water on it and then towel it off. And they say, "Why do you do that?" And he would say, "Because the grip is going to be wet when it really counts. Jim Lair one time, Sanibel Island, I think he was in charge of the Jimmy Connors Tennis Center. So they're paying Jimmy some money, put his name on the place. Jimmy said, mental toughness, it's all a crock, you know. He wasn't into the ritual. He was doing it anyway, but Jim Lair made a very powerful tape. And who'd he use? He used Jimmy Connors. Just how Jimmy Connors, he was, a little sacrilegious. I'm playing so well, I could beat God this week. I mean, Jimmy. Yeah, certainly. McEnroe came along. One time somebody said to McEnroe, to Connors, "You're behaving so much better." And but he goes, "No, that's not true." As McEnroe came along, he goes, "I'm still Lennon. It's just that McEnroe's Stalin." Jimmy Connors. One time he was playing Metro Valley, they told him, the TV, CBS, playing the Russian, really from Georgia. But at that time, the USSR. And so Connors is told, just don't wear red. He comes out, he just couldn't find red shorts. He had on red socks, red wristband, red shirt. It's just like, no one tells Jimmy Connors what to wear. Our boy who came in today, who he could have some lessons from Jimmy. But I think probably the best lesson, all these moms, I mean, these kids can't even peel a banana. The parents are running on the court delivering a Gatorade. They shouldn't even, that time of day, they shouldn't even be drinking Gatorade. Big brain, take the Gatorade and pour it over your head. So Gloria Connors said to Jimmy, if I can hit the ball down your throat, I will. I'm your mom. But to return service, coming back to Connors and Roddick, you have a checklist. I think, I just give Roddick the serve, give Connors everything else. I say, Jimmy's forehand. Yeah, it's true. Maybe we'll give Roddick the forehand. Jimmy made 70. It was pretty easy to remember. In 77, we lost to Vilas. He made 70 unforced errors on the forehand side. Jimmy had a reset. He like Borg had a reset on the backhand. It stood too far back in the ad court. But Jimmy would reset it. The racket would, like a rocking chair, would go low and back up high. And that's one of the reasons he wasn't the flat hitter that people said he was, but he didn't really get the racket. He was driving the ball deep. I had nothing really to do with the Roddicks, although I went to their academy and trained coaches because they just came forward, okay, we need to work on how you teach beginners. But I can go on and on with Jimmy, but we should have a podcast just on Jimmy Connors.
Yeah.
With, the Borg McEnroe movie came out and we watched it. And it was just coaches. And, I held court for like 2 more hours. I held court for longer than the movie, talking about those two guys. Kids don't read autobiographies. They need to know players from the past. Tennis kids don't even have a library card. Well, the parents can afford, they need to be listening in their car. The kids are very passive. The parents, I would say, for the most part, they don't really even know what the kid is doing. It's like they're very quiet. I remember my former wife, I just hear that, kids opening up a Coca-Cola. My former wife, she pulled a grocery cart down the aisle, and whatever the kids put in the cart, she's going, okay. And I'm like, no. Tell stories. We had a kid one time, he bought a case of Dr. Pepper, and he's going to live with us. So we had a meeting. I held a meeting in the kitchen, and I brought the case of Dr. Pepper, opened the first one. I'm talking to the kids. I pour the first one down. I take the second one. And then finally the kid goes, is that my Dr. Pepper? I go, yeah, it's your Dr. Pepper. I said, I think it's going to be really good. I think it's going to clean out the pipes. Amazing. We have a thing on Chad Berryhill and Dave Anderson. They both have good notebooks. A lot of it's from the same resources. And one is, what is a Coca-Cola good for? If there's blood on the road, they'll use Coca-Cola to get, it's amazing what they use Coca-Cola for. It's like the alcoholic. There's a meeting I went to a lot of AA meetings. Unfortunately, I taught a lot of kids that became alcoholics when I was training tennis coaches. So it's a completely different animal teaching juniors. So I'm teaching kids to get a college degree in tennis. And ended up going to quite a few AA meetings. You can have a guest. And so anyway, there's a meeting, and I wasn't at this meeting, but this is how the story goes. So speaker, and the speaker is always a former alcoholic. The meetings go. If you've ever been in one,
No.
the meetings is like, this person just, I'm Joe and I'm alcoholic, and everybody else says, hi, Joe, and the person just tells their story. And so anyway, guy's in front. He's got one glass of water and a glass of booze, and he's got one plastic bag of worms, another plastic bag of worms. And he puts the first plastic bag in the glass of water, and the worms are fine. He takes the next bag of worms and he puts it in the glass of booze, and it fizzles and there's smoke, and as it settles, and all the worms die. And so the speaker says, "What's this prove?" And the guy raises his hand and says, "If you drink whiskey, you won't have any worms." Anyway, what else you got?
Matchups. Not that we have a lot of different game styles these days with surfaces, very very homogenized. But and I don't know if this is in Bill Tilden's book.
Match play and spin the ball.
Yeah. Net beats baseline.
Yeah, net beats baseline. Baseline beats net. What beats net's topspin?
Topspin. Yeah.
It's pretty simple. 1, 2, 3, and with gosh, I spent chapters of my life doing that. So we have a really nice place you asked about in Orlando. One of the negatives is that the tournaments are much better in South Florida, 3 hours away. So we have this beautiful place in Florida. Things weren't really happening at the national campus. A lot of people went there thinking, okay, maybe it's better now, but it's just like, if you want to play better players, it's not like it's the highest level, but there's so many players in South Florida. And kids are looking to improve their UTR, play college tennis. Train of thought, senior moment. Help me out again. Where are we?
Net beats baseline.
Yeah, so
topspin.
So anyway, the Battle of Boca. Get on track here. The Battle of Boca. Everybody's playing the same. I mean, they have 52 tournaments a year. I mean, Christmas Day, New Year's, I mean, there's every weekend. And it's a very good service in many ways. It's gone downhill. It used to be if you lost on Saturday in the second round, if you want to play Constellation, you could come. Now you're guaranteed 2 matches, and they keep shortening the scoring system. But yeah, there's a lot of variety in the one sense that you're playing a different swing. It's like Martina Hingis' mother at Bollettieri's and in Saddlebrook said, "My daughter will play with everybody. I want to have her see different swings, different balls."
Yeah.
But I would say for the most part, it's clones taught by clowns. It gets people's attention. Clones, like, come on. I mean, it's just people just ripping forehands. And, for a young kid who's playing up, especially they're not staying in their age group. That's a problem. So they get overpowered, get overwhelmed, and they don't go forward. But I think matchups, Malcolm Gladwell's book, Knowing Without Knowing, talking about tennis math, but there are, I do think that's where the Roddick's of the world and the Gilberts, okay, let's listen carefully because they've played so much tennis. And, what are the strengths and weaknesses of a player? I think you have to be critical. One thing that we don't do, we should do it all the time, is play one-up, one-back doubles in practice because you're playing against one-up, one-back doubles. How's it go? Live by your principles, die by your principles. So you need to be able to counter that because, say, you're the returning team, even though if you and your partner are going to serve and come in, and it's not like 100%, but you're coming in pretty close. I think of 2 of our students, Raven Clausen and Austin Krajicek. When they were juniors, they didn't stay back. They just serve and went. Like the Bryan brothers growing up, that's just how you played. And they played like pros at a young age. So I do think with matchups, like Ben Shelton is playing Denis Shapovalov. And, both big servers, and both could really improve from the service line in. I do think that if you were to see who gets in closer to the net or who comes in more in a conventional manner, in other words, not getting out of the pocket, looking to hit a forehand. I mean, I think Ben Shelton right now, it looks like he'll go into the stands to hit a forehand. So he's just um,
And his dad was a servant volleyer, Brian Shelton. I remember watching him when I was a kid play.
yeah. No, I met him many times. Spent some time. Scotty Perelman was a guest. We're going to get him back on. He worked for Brian, Matt Clore. You know, go way back with both those guys, Scotty Perelman and Matt Clore. Everybody sings praises. Brian. I don't think you find someone say a bad word about Brian Shelton. But Shelton was taught by Bill Tim. We should get Bill Tim on this podcast. Bill Tim was the voice of the USPTA. For the longest time, Bill Tim was the American who went the furthest. Tony Trabert won the French in 55. So I think it was 68 where Bill Tim, he's a player. So, last American to get like the third round of the French. Seriously, just the third. Might have been in the fourth, but fact checker have to get after that. So Bill Tim, really structured speaker, very organized. And I was at the Orange Bowl with my son, Connor. I went on the road with him for 2 tournaments in a row, which I usually didn't do that because I was coaching other kids had to, you got to pay the bills and run your tennis school. So he's playing a designated. I don't know if he wins it, but he plays as many matches as you can. He's there to the last day. He plays 6 matches, 3-day tournament. Go to the Orange Bowl and he plays, qualifies. Parents, didn't think he was going to go that deep in the tournament and didn't make a reservation. I know a lot of people in Miami were saying, okay, we don't want to impose. It's a holiday time. And I said, okay, we'll just sleep in the van. Remember mom, she didn't go for that. So we stayed at the Biltmore. Beautiful place. And he wins another match or two. So he ends up getting beat 6-0. And I'm sure he went much further in tennis than the guy he lost to 6-0, 6-0. Big kid from Brazil. So because comes from Welby Van Horn, always watch your daddy. Yeah. Who beat you?
Yeah.
And juniors don't do that, especially if it's a local tournament. You lose, just with humility, you come out and you sit in the back and you watch the person beat you. And then you find out they're really not that good. They're not like heads and shoulders better than you are. So my son Connor is young and it's like, he's the one who's when we drive back from Miami to Tampa, he's going to sleep in the back. So I'm going to be the one who drives so we get back at 4 a.m. Then I should tell you this kid's name. He's coaching now. Ryan Lippman. There's another, he's got a brother too, so fact checker. Very good player, played at Vanderbilt, got to the finals at Kalamazoo. Good tennis player. And he comes out and I'm watching this match, and I've been watching junior tennis for 9 days in a row. And there's an older man like me. I look more like a grandfather. I am at that age now, but this is many years ago now, 20 years ago. So I said to this man, I go, this kid? I mean, he's playing approach volley. He's playing underspin backhands. He's just got a complete game. And he tells me his name is Lippman. I go, let's go. You know where he's from? He didn't tell me it was his son. He goes, he's from Tennessee. I said, oh, he's got to be coached by Bill Tim. He looked at me, he goes, how do you know that? I said, because there's only a few people in America who are going to teach someone to play like that. There's really, Daniel Coyle's book, The Talent Code, there's really only small pockets of places where people are teaching clean, efficient tennis. It's all recruiting. It's all hustle. It's okay. I got to go to an academy. And I mean, I'm sorry, but that's it. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. The GreatBase. I mean, people have to get a much, much better beginning. So with coming back to your question on matchups with, let's go with maybe the final is going to be Swiatek and Goff. Are they on different halves? I guess they are 1 and 2. Now, the Alcaraz and Sinner on the same side because of Djokovic being seeded, rightfully so. In Wimbledon they can seed accordingly.
That's right.
So if you just went with those matchups, Goff, was she really that competitive at the French on the red clay? Now, so then you go, okay. She won the U.S. Open. That's on hard court. She grew up in South Florida. She's played a lot on clay. But then how do they match up? And, Goff has improved so much, but, can she mix her up? Will she mix it up on the return? Will she serve, volley some? So then Swiatek has to keep some returns low, some returns high. Will she use an off-pace approach shot? Braden used to always say about Borg and Vilas. Like, how could you lose to the same guy the same way 20 times in a row?
Yeah.
He used to say that Borg was a better Vilas. Don't you have plan B, plan C? With, so to make some changes with, I think that Goff, Swiatek is not as comfortable on grass. There's the commentators, they talk about the movement. Swiatek has improved her serve. She's improving her volley. But I just think what people should do, Chris Everett said that to Djokovic. When you're up a green light point, when you're up 2 or 3, Everett said to Djokovic, you're beating people 1 and 2. Don't you think that's a good time to work on your game? Because if you don't do it in a match, it doesn't count. If you do it in practice, that's great, but it doesn't count. You're a bluff, you're a coward, you're a phony. Yeah, we worked on this in practice, and how people produce myelin. I remember not too long ago, a girl, she didn't need to go to the Easter Bowl. Her and the coach I've helped train and her dad, she should have gone to Europe. And she goes to the Easter Bowl. I go, you're going the wrong place. You're spending your money the wrong way. And but to go and play the wrong way, the myelin kicks in. That's when they're super engaged. And I'm not a student of biochemistry, but they're just producing myelin at a greater rate. And when kids are putting in time when they're practicing, but they're not putting in effort. If they're not switched on, they're just going through the motions, and they're going to improve at a slow rate. But if there's like, I'm in, I'm making this change, I'm all in, I'm after it. So then who's ever in their corner, just a little bit of element of surprise. Today on TV, they said, well, TFO against Alcaraz had moved further back on the return. And with, IMG was covering everything for Alcaraz when he was 12. I mean, people knew when he was 12, this guy is the real deal. And, as great as he is, I mean, he but then comes down to myelin. Well, should he, like his service motion is not like Kyrgios's. He's got that up down little chain puller syndrome with his right elbow, but he's got myelin for that. So then if you're going to change that, then it doesn't work that way. Oh yeah, I'll just change it. You get to that level, it's a real big deal if you're going to make a change. But tactical change, not as much. He gets out of the pocket too much. He could go forward more. He could. Tommy Paul has a win over him not so long ago, is that he could be doing the same thing Tommy Paul is doing. But the logic, can you just come in and make one volley? And then when you do it, again, just to get the returner to be off, like, oh, no, I can just stay back and rip the ball up high. But not if they're coming in. So the center versus Alcaraz, again, you go through the checklist. Center has a better serve. He's got a better serve. And, how's the grass playing and this and that. But as great as center's game is, I mean, the backhand volley. Both volleys, but especially the backhand volley.
Bad math.
But he doesn't play doubles. But he's number one. And, it's Wimbledon. So it's like, well, I'm not going to experiment now. But, it'd be like a football team that they're always running the same play. They're never running. So they don't keep the person guessing on the other side at all. And matchups with a lot of times just comes down to who's better playing the same way. I'm going to mix it up. The famous match with Arthur Ashe and Jimmy Connors. Jimmy liked pace. Well, don't give him pace. And Arthur played, and he had a very bad record against Connors. But that one time with Mark Dixon, his dad used to hang out with us. What a great guy. Just watch us teach tennis. He just loved tennis. Mark Dixon plays at Jesuit, gets to be like number 5. Or he starts off, he's on the team, but he just keeps working where he hits serves, hits the backboard, hits serves, hits the backboard. So he becomes number 1 at Jesuit, this school in Tampa. Goes to Clemson, same thing. Bottom lineup, but he keeps working and working, backboard and serve. And then with Chuck Cris, he wasn't doing all the crazy running. He was swimming. So he's on the tour. He got to be 32 in the world. I had him coach my son on the serve. Say, just listen to what he has to say on the serve. And he did an internship with us, a very short one. But so Dixon, what a great guy. He's coaching some college tennis. All the years go by. Like, hey, what's Mark doing now? I don't know, but great guy. So he's playing Vilas. Vilas is, you have the argument, well, 1 in the world. So Borg plays world team tennis. He doesn't go to the French. But Vilas is right up there. He's definitely a perennial top 5 player. Mark Dixon plays him, holds his serve. Brad Gilbert said best second serve at one time, best second serve in the history of the game, but really good server. And he comes in, takes care of his serve. He holds. He plays Vilas. He doesn't attack at all until it gets to be, it's towards the end of the set. He's only going to attack one game because he's not going to let him groove his passing shots. He's not going to let him hit a passing shot. So it's, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, 3-2. So it gets to be 4-all. Vilas is serving. Dixon's coming in. Did it both sets. People I used to play doubles with a guy, very good athlete. And I just knew I would eventually play him in a tournament. I never one time played him in practice where I tried to win. I always played to his strength in practice. Like, I'm going to play this guy in a tournament. Kids today, that's like the book Range, the generalists and the specialists. They don't play in other sports. They haven't had part-time jobs. They don't, it's just like, come on, let's give them another cupcake. Let's give them another cupcake. And my dad used to say that about me. He said, no savvy. You got the brains that God gave little green apples, but can you figure it out? I think I'm pronouncing his name wrong. Jamie Saratini. He came to our place a couple times and great guy. It's amazing what he did with his game. He played Wimbledon. He has, I think, 2 wins over Federer playing doubles. And he's practicing with one of our students. I don't want to mention his name, Arush Ganji. He goes, this guy's got great volleys. I go, yeah, but there's one problem. He doesn't volley. He's fast. There's got one problem. He can't run 39 feet. He can't run forward. And, but people become very stubborn. You need to have stubbornness work for you, not against you. But matchups, though, no, it's make that checklist. But I think coming back to Jimmy Connors, I think Jimmy do okay forehand to forehead with Roddick, but I'm going with he's just a better tennis player.
Yeah.
But Roddick, in all fairness, he got the Wimbledon final 3 times. I heard Troy Aikman say not too long ago, he won 2 Super Bowls, but Jim Kelly, he got to 4 Super Bowl finals. And I think it was great where Troy Aikman said, I think getting to 4 Super Bowl finals is better than winning 2 Super Bowls and all this stuff. Well, he never won the big one. Roddick getting to the Wimbledon final 3 times, to me, is better than winning the US Open. Come on, he got the finals of Wimbledon 3 times. And so, I have all the respect in the world for Roddick, but I just think that in Roddick's upbringing, their oldest brother, Lawrence. There's Lawrence, there's John, and Danny. Lawrence used our curriculum at one point, and then I think it's JC. He's a good college tennis player. And, did they start the course, stay the course? But I think that I remember telling Ron Woods a long time ago. Better yet, Ron Woods told me, he ran the USTA. He was a player in charge of player development. He said if there was a wheelbarrow full of money, but there's a brick wall in front of it. He was talking about Jim Courier and
Pete Sampras. Yeah.
He said that Jim Courier would put his head down and just go through the wall head first, and he'd get the wheelbarrow money. He said that Sampras could take a couple steps back and go, okay, I'll go over the wall this way. And But yeah, matchups. So yeah, you've asked a lot of questions. I mean, 2003, we haven't won a major on the men's side. If you take away what the Williams sisters have done, and it's like, yeah, we were American tennis. Everybody's like being so nice. Is that? But we all have to do a better job. Everybody has to. Like, what are you doing? What am I doing to make tennis better in America? And um, I think the Gullies, Tom Gullickson, um, it was a mistake to say, okay, we're going to do what the Spaniards are doing. Okay, we're a hard court nation. Um, you know, it was an inside joke at one time, the USTA, if you can't speak Spanish, you can't coach here. It's like, are you kidding me? What do you got, Chris? Great to talk tennis.
Oh, I love it. Let me put you on the spot a little bit. Roger Federer was asked a while back, hey, what are your 3 wishes? And I think he said one was to have Stan Wawrinka's backhand. And I think maybe one was, I wish Rafa Nadal would have played football. And then he was going to save his 3rd one.
Yeah, smart guy. He was asked where he puts his money. He goes, I'm Swiss. I put it in the bank. A lot of Roger lines. They asked him about the flag. He said it's a big plus.
Yeah. So I'm going to put you on. I'm going to put you on the spot. So
technical difficulties. I can't hear you. Go ahead. No.
You talked about teaching is information transfer. Coaching is really the human relationship. So if I were to ask you what your 3 wishes are for coaches, or what would your 3 wishes be for coaches, or just for tennis, for the sport of tennis?
Well, thanks. Off the top of my head, wish number 1 is that kids wouldn't be lied to. Is that, it's a gut check that, this is the ready position. These are the efficient grips. This is what you need to do. Is this truth? There needs to be truth in tennis. It's what happens at the beginning. I find myself, the empathetic educator is that, okay, let me help out this person. I think so many people, I think another wish is that, the consumer was educated. I think they're one and the same. Is that the merchant of flesh scenario, that the parent could just tell, okay, this guy's at the tournament. He's handing out business cards. This is an academy. They're wining and dining us. They're going to let our kid come for free. So parent education. So I think the first one is pro education. I think those are the wishes: education. But also too is that then if you take the player, is the people wouldn't change around the player. There'd be perspective. So many people are telling a kid they're really good, but they don't even know what really good is. Like say for example, if we get with hero worship and Vic Braden, it's a cult. It's all this one person, but it's a science. But again, Joel Trucker mentioned it, that Braden spent so much time with pros. And so, go back to Einstein, that if you don't know the history of your subject, you don't know your subject. But it's work to go back and study history, but to be current, turn the TV on. And, I do think that through television, and not just our country, but there should be education. There should be education, prevention of injury for one. But I think if you take what I do, the triangle is, you got to, the wishes would be, okay, better education for the teaching pro, a better education for the parent, and better education for the player. With, where's this road taking us? Is there's so many reasons. Okay, why so many foreign players in college tennis? I'm all for that. Just where would American tennis be if we didn't have all these foreign people here? It certainly has a nice flavor, a nice twist to have all these people from over the seas. But we just have to get better. We have to get better. And I think high school tennis, to watch high school tennis, and I don't want to take anything away from high school players, but Now in this country, the individual bigger than the program. A lot of people don't even play high school tennis anymore. It's like, come on. And having community and having a tennis ladder, I think, just 3 wishes that the administrator needs to be put in that mix as well. And it's just too much about money. It's a money grab. And why are there no ladders anymore? Why are there no backboards anymore? We need to pull for each other. And, now like with pickleball invading tennis, it's like, okay, we can't beat them. We got to join them. The way people are playing pickleball, I was on the court today. We came at 6:30 this morning, and this nice man with his 2 daughters and his wife, and the one daughter said, "Dad, I don't know how to play." And he goes, "It's easy. Just try to hit it over the net." And that was it. And away they went. They were whacking some pickleballs. Roger Federer played it recently, and he said, "It just seems like big ping pong." I used to think I could play ping pong, but then I saw it really played. There's so many different levels to everything. That comes back to exposure. But education, but also too is people versus profit. It's just, I think in the end, if you go with people, you'll be profitable. But it's just not, tennis is just not dripping in honesty. It's just the opposite. Cris Valverde, what do you got?
Yeah, that was really, really good. Maybe we should put some sprinkles on this podcast with a few.
Yeah, let's
with a few Arthur Ashe quotes. I think we did that last time when I was on the podcast.
I play like Arthur Ashe's brother, Jack Ashe. Arthur Ashe, Jim Martz, who recently passed away. I'm sure there might be a rough his wife could look for, is that he would call me and he was going to have a book on Arthur Ashe quotes. But yeah, we did that the other day. We just took Roger Federer quotes.
Yeah, we sure did. That was fun.
But Arthur Ashe, I wanted to do this before we did this podcast, is show you the library I have. Everything takes time, but you could go through those with, Arthur wrote several books as well. And just, okay, I'll pull this out of this paragraph. And
yeah, that's one of my favorite from his is, "You can spot a Welby Van Horn student from a mile away." Could probably say that about GreatBase students.
No, it happens all the time with, I don't take that as a compliment. I take that as an insult. That's an insult to tennis, that our students stand out. It could be a low toss, and that's happening. But more and more people are tossing lower out in front, but they actually can come in and hit a volley. But it shouldn't be that way. I think that's one thing about, like, say in Spain, for example, the one-upmanship. America's a great place, but it's so competitive. Is my program's better than your program? Wouldn't it be nice if everybody agreed that here are certain basic parameters that we're going to agree upon? Or we have many critics that they have not studied any of the information. They're just critical because they hear it's a system. It's a system. Peter Burwash. We're not going to teach form. We're going to teach understanding. So he would come in and we'd learn so much from Peter and his pros. I'd say, hey, don't challenge this guy. This guy's got so many great ideas. And I said, but when he leaves, we have the quote, we're going to teach how people to understand form. So it's a play on words. We're not going to teach form. We're going to teach understanding. Well, we're going to teach people to understand form. And, wouldn't it be powerful if the governing body of tennis in this country, or even worldwide, there's posters of these top players. And okay, we're going to have form tournaments and we're going to have target tournaments. And I used to say that the only thing that people agreed upon in tennis teaching was the ready position. Now they don't even discuss the ready position. And people don't have an eye. Young Ivan Osirets, we're at the round of 16s men and women, and his look at going across 6 courts. I mean, there's 3 doubles, 6 singles. Isn't that one person at a centered ready position? Because every person had an extreme grip. Now, we're not telling people you can't have an extreme grip, but it's a pretty safe bet that you're going to stay back in doubles. You're going to play swing volleys. And, it's just like with Alcaraz today. I love center. How could you not like center? But even like say with Federer, and Nadal would be the first person, Uncle Tony, to agree with this, is that I'll go for the underdog, but I like to cheer for the person who's going to help tennis teaching the most. Names. Think of Barasategi. Became top 10 in the world.
French Open finalist.
Yeah. And give me 1 second. Spent so much time with this guy. He's been coaching in Saddlebrook forever. And it is true, you don't prove smiling when you're my age. You start to lose your memory. But remember him telling me, he goes, tennis will never be the same. A guy gets to be top 10 in the world playing that way. And grip and rip. You can hit the ball any way you want. Vandermeer used to say, if you can get people to rally, you're a tennis teacher. But like say, for example, like a Marat Safin, when he came on the scene, there was Roddick and Federer, but it was like, okay, Safin is a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger. I mean, they're all like stud athletes, right? But how many of us get to work with athletes like that? I always say, yeah, I've been teaching tennis forever, and I've taught with a lot of people who can touch the rim, basketball. I've taught a lot of people who can stuff a tennis ball. Maybe 10, 12 people in 50 years. Tennis players I've taught that can jump through the gym and they can, give me the ball. I'll show you. I'll just jump up there and boom. And that's, that comes back to college tennis is great, but it's recruiting. It's not, I think that the best coaches should be able to recruit players and develop them. But all that stuff shouldn't happen in the grassroots, in the junior development world. Yeah, we keep going here. We don't want to beat Andy Roddick. Andy Fitzell's record though. 4 hours.
What are your plans for the rest of the summer? I know that you have an event coming up at the end of the summer. You're doing another clinic. You've been doing a few clinics. You did a couple at NC State with Tennis Block.
Well, this is a beautiful place up here. You've met Steve Campbell, his wife, Colleen, Ethan Matthews. Support staff. It's just like, wow, this place is really amazing. So we set up a base here and we have the option to come and go. But we said, okay, year one, we'll be here for 365. We have traveled maybe half dozen times for workshops, but after the summer, but a little about the summer, we've still got the rest of July and until August 22nd. Then we're going to go to Baylor University and run like a 6-day program, 2 days to train people for teaching, peer teaching. And anybody and everybody, how's it go? Educate the enthusiast to the expert. But we need to be freelance. We need to consolidate because we're really, again, I'm repeating myself for people like yourself who listen to these podcasts, is that the world of social media is constant content. Not better. Well, we obviously everybody needs a better content as well, more content, but just we want to reach more people to try to share what we're sharing. I've been told by quite a few people that we're getting the word out, which is okay. We're not really being given credit for that. People don't hashtag us. We have all sorts of examples where people have copied a Andy Fitzell Instagram post and then they just made their own post.
Yeah.
And the only problem with that is that they miss 2 or 3 really key points. And it's like anything, it takes time. It takes time to really be a student of the game and be a tennis scholar. So no, the goal is to try to improve what we're doing. And I love the line, good is the enemy of great, but Dave Fish told me that. Steve, you're good as the enemy of great. You're doing a lot of good, but you're not doing a lot of great. We're not reaching enough people. And we're not selling anything. I don't want to sell anything like, here's my credit card. I've got the secrets. I've got students that are doing that. And I know people have to make a living, but I would love to see coaches teach people in your backyard, make an impact on your community, and then tennis would be another wish. And said, well, it's my pocketbook's okay. I got these. I'm making videos for this guy, and he's pumping my tires and pumping my wallet. But it's like the game. We're confused. I mean, we have these Grand Slams. Wimbledon's on. Like tennis is awesome. We have these 4 Super Bowls, but that's the Super Bowls. Down in the trenches, and I think that's not really fair. I mean, say, okay, we got the shovel and we're out there in the mud and we're doing hard labor. I mean, teaching tennis is not hard labor, but it certainly is if one, the coach has no idea, they're winging it. They're making it up as they go along, and the kids aren't getting any better. That's what happens with many tennis programs. A wave of kids go through and there's no accountability. And then the coaches can play God per se and go, well, they were too lazy. Oh, the parents. I said, are you kidding me? I mean, they were just taught poor fundamentals, and they find something else. If you can't get a kid to rally, they're not going to get excited about tennis.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have someone like you, the empathetic educator, and also a connection between the great teachers of the past. You're carrying the legacy on of those great teachers, and I really admire that. You give credit where credit is due. That's something that doesn't happen nowadays.
Plagiarism.
Everyone's. I just discovered this new secret, and so I really admire the fact that you have your 8 pillars. There they are. Here are the people that I've learned from, and then all the people that you mentioned on tennis intelligence applied. So I commend you for
thanks
for always
it's kind of
giving
like
credit where credit's due.
Chris. It's kind of like, where does that come from? Well, certainly, I remember Catholic school where the nuns. Oh my word, you weren't going to pull anything over on them. I remember didn't like spinach. You had to go up and show your tray that you've eaten all your food. I put my spinach in the milk carton. The girl behind me ratted on me, and they made me eat 3 helpings of spinach. But I went to this boarding school, and there was a lot of drugs at this boarding school. But yet, I mean, one thing is you could be kicked out of the school for plagiarism. I mean, the bibliography, the footnotes, and what happened at one time with the SATs is they went from 1600 to 24, and you had to do an essay because kids just buy essays. They don't write their own essay. I mean, they could just. The internet is like a tidal wave. I mean, it's just so big. It's not perfect, but I certainly, like so many people, I think there are a lot of people on a bar stool. I'm not on a bar stool, but they're telling a story. And a lot of people do get bad breaks. The thing about tennis is people get a bad break and they don't even know. They don't even know they have palm up on their serve. Like, we're working with kids today. Most tennis players, we got some kids who can play. They can flat out play, but I look around the court, we don't have one kid who can throw a ball palm down. They didn't grow up playing catch.
Yeah.
Oh, they can serve with palm down, but so then you know how myelin works. Then you think, we got this guy, Ben Shelton, and he spent a lot of years wanting to be a quarterback. And you just know he was out there trying to rifle that football, throw bullets and throw bombs. And he's got he's got a live arm. No, he's got a healthy history with a throwing motion. It helps that he's lefty. It helps that someone told him to toss high, and someone said, no, don't toss high. And he stayed with don't toss high. But no, I think with the teachers of the past, this thing with like Braden, so many people were so nice. It was 10 years ago. He passed away in October. I could just, you just talk to someone. Well, yeah, I really studied Vic, and it's like, no, you didn't. Not to put anybody down, but I mean, he was just misinterpreted, short, fat, funny guy. And it's like, no, you need to go to work, and you just to really study the information. I think you mentioned Jeff Lewis, along with Ryan Reedy. There's others. Jeff does a very good job. He spent a lot of years with us, and then for a very short period of time, Uncle Vic, he was one-on-one with Uncle Vic, and but people should look him up. We looked at it the other day.
The forehand spoof, Noah Atala.
What a great name! That's like in the Disney picture, 101 Dalmatians, Cruella de Vil. Who came up with that? Creative. That's a word that if people have an understanding of the basics, then I would say then and only then they can be creative. Come on. You're going to do situational training. Is one bounce doubles really that creative? I mean, having a scoring system where you got to win 3 points in a row to get a game. But no, I really appreciate you asking me about this coach and that coach and people that you've met. You've done the hard yards as a tennis teacher. Let's go with a couple more and we'll wrap it up.
You've talked in the past about the printed letter A, cursive, signature.
Yeah. Michael Arscheid.
Really like that one.
Cheesehead. I went to work for Tennis Corporation of America. Okay. We should have a podcast on projects that we've tried. And it's not that we failed. There's lots of people that we trained through Tennis Corporation of America. And I just think of players from that experience. But Mike Larscheid, I know he's coming up here to visit. He just said it so well as, this is A, this is the sound of A, do we agree? This is the shape of A, do we agree? Now let's go on to B. But he also said that it's an injustice, very strong word. It's unjust, criminal, wrong, fraudulent. So you have to print first. Of course, cursive is going away now because of the computer age, but it's print, cursive, then signature or autograph. So say, for example, Boris Becker, B and B, there's some B's in his name. So, but his name's Boris Becker. So if you knew it was Boris Becker, then you could read the autograph. And I don't know how he signs his name, but you can identify the B. But we skip printing, we skip cursive, and we go right to the autograph. All these Tom, Dick, and Harrys, and I say that because it's the macho male ego. All these Tom, Dick, and Harrys winging it. I say, yeah, I can wing it, but I've wung it. You can't wing it if you haven't wung it. But with all these Tom, Dick, and Harrys is making it up as they go along. And no, we have to have a kid have a really strong base. And this is how you hike a football. This is the 3-point stance. I think football, wrestling, and boy, wrestling's really got beat up with Title IX, but wrestling, football, wrestling for sure, but football is a culture. And I know the concussions and this and that, but that's still a culture that teaches character. In this country, I don't think tennis teaches character.
I don't think coaches speak in the same way in tennis that they do in football.
No, they kill you with kindness, but that comes down to salary versus commission. Granted, the coach is based on his salary. Their income is based on his salary. Oh, they can be abusive. But the guy who's hustling dollars. I mean, come on, a lesson is $100 for an hour, and usually it's a lousy lesson. And then sometimes what's in front of that is you got to get a membership. And come on, I mean, with the Three Musketeers, we got to get it together. How's it go? 1 for 1 or 1 for all, or
yeah.
Yeah. But Mike Larscheid came up with that. What a great way to explain it. Is you're looking at an autograph. You're looking like say Nadal. So lucky to live during the time that Nadal has lived, but he had a two-handed forehand for a long time. The Fed, for a kid to try, Yvonne talks about that he was that kid. just looking at Fed on YouTube. You can't be a copycat. It's not going to work. If it worked, we'd have a lot of players. We just have a lot of players. They're looking at YouTube clips and they're watching people, and it's like, no. Again, you can't skip any steps.
Yeah. Coach Jim Verdick. I think he said his kids even called him Coach.
Yeah.
You had a son on one of the podcasts. That was really
Doug,
good. Yeah, that was awesome. Put your brains down.
Jim Lair about Jim Verdick. He came into the world, came out of his mother's womb. He had a baseball cap, stopwatch, a whistle, and a clipboard. And it was fortunate he was a guest in my house. I mean, Jim Verdick, he would not watch tennis and not chart. Doesn't take much. He's okay. Let me see what's going on here. But the team building, and I don't like it when the kid goes in and they're just a cheerleader for the team. I think there should be like the quarterback, who's the second string quarterback. They're wearing a headset like you and I have on right now. They've got a clipboard and they're standing right next to the head coach. In the sport I love, I grew up in, is hockey. The backup goalie, he's there taking it all in, listening to every coach on the bench. For the longest time, they didn't have goalie coaches. But yeah, people should just go back and listen to Jim Verdick. What a character. But that 10-minute warm-up drill, kids ready position, find it with your feet, just touch it. Oscar Wagner, I spent time with him. I heard somebody say, well, no, he said he's never met you. That's not true. Fort Lauderdale Tennis Club in the 70s. In my van, I had a sound system, and I used to play cassettes. I can remember Oscar being in the van, and I remember Oscar, my son's tennis team, Jesuit in Tampa. One of the parents actually paid for one of the Bryans to come and hang out for the day. So, okay, I could listen to this. And then Oscar Wagner came one time, was hanging out for a day. Or I remember Oscar being in my office, check this film out of Pete Sampras. But Oscar, find the ball, touch the ball. He's very good at relaxing people. This young boy from Utah, Oscar, he doesn't know the Braden math, tennis math. It's not just Braden math, but Jacobson. But I think a lot of people can, look at the stats as far as from the match, but tennis math with grip, swing, body. And, but with, remember it said, let's watch young Pete at age 10. Go to our course, Tennis Intelligence Applied. Pete comes in and he tags a two-handed backhand volley. You have a better chance of developing a one-handed backhand volley when you're a little kid by hitting a two-handed backhand volley. Going to stabilize the racket. He just drives the volley.
With the wood racket.
Yeah. And he's got the overhead. He's got his left hand on it when he turns. It's all there.
Yeah.
It's all there.
Smiley Pete.
That was Lansdorp. You said you spent some time with him.
Yeah. What recommendations do you have for parents that aren't teaching pros? They're not, they haven't studied the information. What would you recommend, them doing with their kids if they have some court time or on the sidewalk or in the garage?
Well, I've had a lot of moms and dads say this to me, but there are a lot of kids who are very good players that were born into tennis. Their parents played or taught, combination of one or both, one or the other. So many kids have a head start. They've just been playing longer. So the old Bradenism, you turn 15, you got 75 years to work on the 90 and over division. Run your own race. Raven Clausen said that. Don't worry about anybody else. Just get better yourself. It's a great sport. It's a lifetime sport. I think parents sometimes will say, okay, let your child pick their own sport, their favorite sport, and then you pick, everybody should swim. And that's a life-saving skill. Tennis should be looked upon that. I know nothing about swimming. Although I went to a prep school, you had to swim a mile to graduate. Grew up on a lake, and it was a big deal to swim across the lake. I know some people swam the length, that was 4 miles, but to swim 1 mile across, I mean, just do the side stroke for a long time. You're not, doing the crawl or freestyle, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, with I just go on and on, but go back to that one question again. Keep me on track.
Parents who don't
Yeah.
they don't know, let's say they don't know strokes or technique, what should they be doing with their child?
Yeah, you got to keep me on track here. I mean, 6:30, we'll keep going, and it's 9:00. No problem. With they need to become educated for one. I mean, what reading list. I do believe that you can go to the internet and learn how to build a deck in your backyard. I do think you can go to the internet and say, okay, how am I going to fix my garage door? Whatever. But I don't think that you can go to the internet and just randomly pick and say, I'm going to learn how to play tennis. That's like, I don't think that's going to work. It's not working. It's just a wild, wild west. Braden, so much bad information is going out so fast. But I think one is your child athletic? Have they played other sports? So it's not a matter of just tennis. I mean, most tennis facilities, kids don't run. If you go to a European program and you don't show up with running shoes, it's like, hey kid, you're not prepared. In Moscow, they have these running schools. You just drop your kid off, and they just run one lap, and then you just have to watch the kid run one lap. You just know so much about the kid, their fitness level, and how much pain can they endure. But no substitute for a good beginning. But I do think that's what's unfortunate. It's almost like looking for a needle in a haystack. Finding someone it's going to be based on truth. It's going to be, okay, this is a ready position. This is what we do for beginners. And there's some positives about the rogi, red balls, orange balls, green dot balls, yellow balls. But, this is a technique for hitting a balloon. No, it's kids need to be introduced to the sport with, it's interesting that golfers, okay, I don't want the ball to go in the woods. Don't want the ball to go in the water. At least there's a stance in golf, and okay, what are the grips in golf? And, it's just unfortunate, but not to be discouraged that, and that will happen to kids because they think they're so far behind. That's where we like to have compatibility lessons where, okay, come in and you can be part of our group. And then everybody meets that kid. That happened today. Someone came in, everybody introduce yourself to this kid. And then that kid practices with everybody and they all start together. I mean, there's been times, USTA, USPTA, PTR, the advice is don't use the term beginner. Everybody's a beginner. Everybody at one time was crummy. And, I know I was probably on skates when I was 4, if not sooner. Just throw them out there. And, that's, if you're on skates at an earlier age, that helps out. But my hometown, my birthplace, Craig Conroy is the only person to make the NHL. And by hockey terms, he had a late start. I said to Huey Hewitson one time at a funeral, I said, why did he become so good? He said he shoveled the most snow. So it's going to be work. It's going to be work to be a tennis player. But no, I think that they need to be resourceful. They need to do some research. We have a article online. It's about what coach to choose, or why do people switch coaches so much? Who's the smartest person at a 10-under tournament? The parent of the child who wins a 10-under tournament. And that's dangerous. They think they know, but they don't know. But no, I think that stick-to-itiveness, to hang in there. But I think that applies to anything. You find out, but like say in academia, okay, this is the protocol. This is what you have to do. People don't know what are the steps to become a tennis player. Run, hit, compete. Okay, we're going to start running. We're going to start doing fitness. And then, the coach, um, instead of selling another lesson, it's like, okay, you got to go get your kid a pair of running shoes. Okay, you got to start running with your kid. If you could just tell when they come out, they haven't really, and they're on PlayStation or whatever it's called now, and it's like, come on,
Get them a jump rope.
Yeah, I mean, what would you rather have? PlaySite. PlaySite's a great tool, and it had this big boost, and it's kind of faded. But they say, oh, it's a great tool, but the machine is only as smart as its operator. And in PlaySite, it's not grip, swing, body. And I say, I think it's great. There's a lot of positives, but I'd rather get a skip rope. And but I do think that there's some coaches that just overload on that too, because I do think that people many times they're going to teach what they're best at. But how many people are best at teaching technique? It's just what happens at tennis teaching conferences that people don't even want to talk about technique. Coaches will talk about drills, but they don't want to talk about fundamentals because it's like, well, okay, I'm not going to expose myself. We get in a lot of trouble making videos. You've been at this academy how long? Oh, you went here for 3 years, and we shoot film, and they're rubbing their chest against the cement. I took lessons for a long time, and met a lot of great people, but they didn't know. They just didn't know. What else you got?
You're one of 6 kids.
Best comes last. Yeah, the encore kid.
You were the youngest.
I did have a speaking part. That's why I could talk now. I didn't get to talk for the first 20 years of my life.
You were the remote control.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about maybe some of the values or lessons that you learned from your mom and dad, or being in a house with 6 children, because nowadays it's
one child,
one child, one sport.
The alpha generation.
Yeah. So,
well, we have to divide this podcast up. I mean, wow. I'm the youngest, so I think I come from 2 different. What would the term be? 2 different programs. My mother didn't go to work till I went to school. She was pulled out of college during the war and became a secretary. So I go back to school. She became a secretary at the university. She sells the house we live in. We move 150 miles south. I was smart enough at that time to tell my dad, we're moving the wrong way. Let's move to Canada. Man, we moved from Potsdam, New York, to a town where, hockey was just getting started. So, but it was just times, so affluency, like Harry Hobbin, he said, what happened to tennis in Australia is that we became affluent. So, so it was just one income. So my mother started selling real estate, and her nickname became Ty, because she's an ENFP. She's a Pied Piper. She didn't even write notes. She didn't write anything down, but she did really well selling real estate. So all of a sudden, now there's a little more affluency rolls in. But there's a family story. There's all sorts of famous stories. But so my sister Kathy, she's 11 years older. She's off at school, and there used to be a 6-pack of Coca-Cola Sunday evening. It was just the way it was in America. It was church on Sunday, and it was, you were lucky if you could stay up and watch Bonanza, but it was Walt Disney every Sunday night. Everybody in America did the same thing. And you have popcorn and 1 Coca-Cola. So the priest comes over. Now the oldest sister's away at college, and it's like, who's going to get Kathy's Coke? Who's going to get Kathy's popsicle? So it was a famous story in the family. The families they're not famous, but within the family, is a priest comes over and it's like, can you have Kathy's popsicle? But by the time I was older, I'd have friends come over, and they would just, Mark Hamill's been on the podcast. He would just come in and he'd go to this pantry, and he'd just open it up and get himself a Coke. And it's just totally different. And, less is more. Less is more. just taking things for granted. But I think I had both, then I went off to a wealthy prep school, but how I got connected to tennis is that I was a dishwasher, and it was great for me. That's this lake up in the Adirondacks, and they take the dishwashing crew around, and you guys swim off this dock. You guys can't go over here. You guys can't use the boats. But they didn't tell us that we couldn't use the tennis court. And really no one used the tennis court. These kids would go on hikes. I remember making the mistake where this one crew, they went out for like 4 days in the woods, and this group of little kids, they just went for lunch, and I had everything packed and organized, and the wrong food order went with the wrong group of people. So this one group had food for 4 days, and the other group, they were out in the woods, and they all had enough food for 1 day. So, no, I could go on and on, but with principles, what you learn from your grandparents and your parents, and you do learn more when you have more siblings. It's like I had 3 brothers. When they messed up, it was like we all messed up. Uh-oh. Okay, so but no, hockey back too. When I was a kid, everybody could afford hockey. Everything's become too expensive, and then the community would find a way. We had a basement filled with hockey equipment, and my father and mother, they'd find a way to outfit somebody too. It's a kid emotional. The kid didn't have skates and that type of thing.
That's a great story.
So, hockey is a sport. It's really changed, but the coaches were in it for love of the game, love of kids. They weren't in it for money.
Yeah.
And parasites and producers. So it's just tennis needs a kick in the behind, because you had the umpire. Vic Brand said, the umpire says ready, play. Can your kid play? And it's not just a Miller Lite lesson. Oh, it's just another lesson. So try not to cry on the podcast. What else you got? Because I could go in deep on that. I mean, that's where it comes from.
Yeah. You have an extensive library. You were mentioning Vic Braden's library, and I'm glad to hear that you're going to be getting a few books.
Yeah, I need to quit teaching and take time to read all these books. So,
Mark Hamlin had that funny joke on the last podcast. He's like, I'm almost finished with my first book.
And now I'm going to read another.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be great for Hamlin to write a book. Hamlin, we grew up the same way, and with Hamlin, there's a guy who's he's 72 years old, and USTA said, okay, we're bringing this guy in, and we're going to put him to work. Just basics, the swings, and okay, look at that kid's swing, and forehand, backhand, whatever. It's hard for me to think, well, how can you put your head on the pillow? Of course, a lot of times they don't know the 2 levels of ignorance. You don't know, and you don't know. So a lot of people sleep well, but if you know, you don't know. And what happens at a lot of places is the person who hits the ball, they have the pedigree, they have the job, and they actually get a percentage from the other people that are teaching. And what do? They hit with a kid who can already play. And now I get in trouble, but there's a lot of small cities in the US of A. They don't produce a college tennis player per year. There's lots of large tennis clubs. But in all fairness to the pro, I mean, people bop and shop and they go, well, we have to go elsewhere. And instead of just being loyal and saying, okay, we're going to blossom where we're planted. We can right here. Tennis players can come from everywhere. I mean, look at the world of tennis. I think they do come from everywhere. Eventually you have to get the competition, but certainly, okay, I have to acquire some clay court experience, but you can get fit everywhere. And Brady used to say there could be somebody in the basement who could be a fantastic tennis teacher. But the problem is, can you get someone to listen to you? Get someone to listen to you. And but the bloody principle, you get swearing, the bloody effing principle is that, this is what needs to be done. And it's, the kids, it's like you said, how do you talk to a kid? Like with your youngest son, you want me to be a babysitter? You need a babysitter? They don't want it. They don't want to hear that. No, I don't need a babysitter. Well, if I keep coming over here and tell you the same thing, yeah. What else you got?
Yeah, you're good. You're good at turning up the volume, or Nick Bollettieri. You got to give a kid a jolt now and again.
Yeah, Jim Lair. I mean, Nick Bollettieri. I saw Donald Young. Nick Bollettieri was in 70. He came down from the crow's nest like college tennis coaches have, football coaches. And, Donald's just dropping some F-bombs. And it was like a scene from the TV show, The Twilight Zone. Everybody froze. The umpires, the players, no one was moving. And Nick Bollettieri, I mean, he did drop a few F-bombs. He went out and the finger against the chest telling Donald Young, you will not behave that way. And Donald Young, I remember one time, we had a student, they had a sibling visit, and the child needed, special needs. And he was around this pro tournament that we were hosting that Donald Young was playing in. And the kid was just all over him, following him around and asking for autographs day in and day out. Donald Young was so nice, that guy. That kid, amazing. But he made the mistake, dropped a few F-bombs, and Nick Bollettieri. But Nick Bollettieri had a jolt. Arlene Bassett, her husband said, yeah, she was the Jimmy Connors of women's tennis. She hit a golf ball and run after it. So intense. And she said that Nick, best junior coach in the world, worst pro coach in the world, because the pro coach is the boss. And, Nick was actually putting a lot of people on scholarship. That's where he had some problems with bankruptcy. I like you, give you a scholarship. I like you, I'll give you a scholarship. And, but yeah, the intensity, now it's just walking on eggshells. You got to be politically correct. All right, a few more.
Okay.
We'll wrap it up.
Ivan Ozarets. What an amazing individual. He's an Energizer bunny. He's been with you, I don't know how long now, but gosh, he's a sponge.
Well, parenting one.
Yeah.
He will not, we have these stools. I go, hey, people don't even hear that term, where that's a TV table. People used to have TV dinners. Now people don't have that inexpensive TV dinner. So, and you didn't put it in a microwave because there weren't any microwaves. So he has to sit at a table. Amazing. So that's parenting. I coached one kid, Nicholas Thewel. And he played some tennis. He played college tennis. Remember the comedian Mike Costa told me he will not play college tennis. I said, Costa, I'll get him to beat you. And, we have film of players like that. So but his parents, wow, he would be at a restaurant. It reminds me, Yvonne, is that, kids are at like a Pizza Hut, and he's not going to take a bite out of pizza till everybody has their food. And, those, like from my upbringing, that things have just changed, So, but Yvonne, he was a young guy who came to a camp and said, hey, I want to be a great, great player. And it was a little bit too late. And I remember just telling him, hey, when you get a college degree, call me up. And if you want a job in tennis. He sees it. We're not getting done what we'd like to get done, but he loves tennis. And he has, obviously he's very intelligent. He has computer skills. We need to regroup and we have a network. And if people have heard me say, it's like we go into the accountant's office and we have 2 shoe boxes filled with all these papers. but we need to put it together. And on those pieces of paper, you know, credibility, track record, science, you know, Braden, Vandermeer. This is a pretty impressive, but it's not organized like it should be. But it's out there. And we, you know, people said someone said that you got to listen to your critics. Our content is like drinking from a fire hose. It's like going to this giant buffet. Where do I begin? But yeah, he's been immersed in, but it's, you know, the parenting, the intellect, certainly the passion with, yeah, you know, he's not that much older than the people he's around this week in the camp.
Yeah.
And, but it's, yeah, I mean, congratulations to his parents. The kid's a winner, and the winning doesn't come down to the scoreboard. It's just, I mean, he's working around the clock. You know, you asked about summer. We'll get through this like 90 days of, you know, let's go. I mean, you know, when's the day off? You know, we're teaching tennis. It's not hard work. You know, people need a break, and you know, people say, well, burnout. People get me going on burnout. Hey, kid, you're not going to burn out. You got to catch on fire. You know, burnout is frustration factor. You know, it's overplayed. And, but you know, he certainly the stamina, you know, it's like, okay, it's not painful to get your head off the pillow and get going in the morning. So no, it was very, very, glad you brought him up. I mean, but I think also too, is that you know what's going on around you, but it's like, you know, just, and I think that's something else with 6 kids. And also too, I went away from home, and I you know, I said, okay, I'm going to pursue tennis. And I've been away the furthest and away the longest. And a lot of times, you know, if you're right in the middle of it, you know, you can't see the forest through the trees. But when you're really way back, and it's not years. I had a surgeon tell me that one time. It's so true. You don't measure experience in years. It's in case studies. Now, Balotelli, you know, he wasn't a technician, but you know, I love Balotelli for what he did and created this tough playground. But he met so many people that said they wanted to be great players, and then, you know, with families to get a tennis player down the road. I would say also too is, you know, a lot of people, they can't tell if they're looking at a gift horse in the mouth. You know, they are going to judge it by the cover. You know, like if people come in and saw what we're doing, like this girl who's a very top, you know, top college player. I mean, I was told that she was in contention to be the freshman of the year. Okay. But it's, you know, she's here, her sister's here, but it's not to call it a third party con, but Dave Secker said, you should go here. And then if people, they go, well, there's one coming back to Ivan Osaretz, there's layers and layers to the onion. It just keeps going and going and going. And it's not where, well, yeah, you know, I went up there and I spent 1 week and I know their stuff. And it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
I was really impressed. We were in the classroom, and I think we were going over, it might have been another person you've had on your podcast, Spencer Johnson. We were going over his match. And Yvonne, wow, what a great dissertation on his game.
I think it was great because I said, okay, tell me. And Yvonne went off and he was doing something else.
Oh.
And I said, okay, kids, tell me what. One goes, it was much more organized than what I had to say, you know. And it's like, yeah, I love it, you know. That's the thing about being a hockey kid. When you go in the locker room and people, people just start chirping, they just start picking on you, you know. And you get to the point where, I mean, not always does that work, but it's like, okay, this is love, baby. You know, they wouldn't be picking on you, you know. They wouldn't even know your name, and so. No, I had a follow up with the dad. The dad he just called to thank for the tapes, and I go, just watch the last tape first, and it's, you know, basically then what I said is that because they know Yvonne before he came, Joey and Spencer, but I told this gal today, go listen to my podcast 199, and what do you see? So because he went off on it, Miran Man and I were he just, okay, tell us what you think. And it was his rant or his ramble or whatever. And it was refreshing. The guy's got some scoop, he's got some knowledge. And so
analytical eye. And it was great. It was great listening to him, and here's a dissertation being done by someone who knows the content and knows math and
his brain type more introverted, and sometimes the less said. I've told a lot of people to do this when they're players, is talk to yourself in your second language, not your native tongue. But he just came in and said, boom, boom, it's a minus.
Yeah.
Coach Ilya Semajans, he can't even pronounce his last name, from Latvia. He was on our podcast, and he's been on a couple of times. What a great coach. He's the one who put the Metrodome together. And so anyway, a young Canadian gal, she spent a lot of yards with us, hard yards, a lot of time. 6 months here, 6 months there, 6 months injured, not even playing. And, representing Canada, and they just took a time out from Tennis Canada. So he's in the room, and he said to the girl, after your serve, you had every other shot in fear. Is it a minus? Is it a people? Most people are not, Teddy Roosevelt, I'm not giving you hell, I'm telling you the truth. It sounds like hell. I mean, it really, really, if someone hears an honest critique like that, it should be like a breath of fresh air. But we've just gone away from that. I tell people, you get a job, tell people you show up, say, I do windows and floors, I do everything. And with Steve Campbell here, he calls Yvonne the Swiss Army knife. It's not a butter knife. And that's the way you got to go about it. And not selfish. He likes to run, likes to lift weights, and he likes to play tennis. And we're busy right now. And it's like, okay, I'm number 2. And What else you got, sir?
Just getting back to that dissertation and just what you were just saying, there is no good, there is no bad. It just is. And I think you said that in high level coaching. And
there is no negative, there's no positive, it just is.
Yeah.
And it's how they interpret it.
Yeah.
And, fertilizer, SHIT, store high in transit. That's where the word comes from. If you want to grow, you need fertilizer. And I tease the Indians, they do so well from an academic standpoint, is the standard is set. The standard is set. Swiatek, her mental coach, low expectations, high standards. You're going to be the hardest worker. It's an easy choice to be a hard worker.
Yeah. I think you were telling my younger one during the week, do you want to be awesome or do you want to be awful? The choice is yours. And that really, that stuck with him because later in the night, he had written that down in his notebook.
Well, you bring everybody around this, it's amazing, champions are made of no one's watching. Well, make everybody watch. All right, let's watch this kid. I'm going to just toss a ball. He's going to hit a forehand. I'm going to hit a backhand. And it's like, looks like a different person. So if you want to do it, you can do it. And, but just tell them, nope, that was awesome. This is awful. It's your choice. You can do it. You can do it.
Are you around tennis or are you in tennis? That was another quote that you told the group this week, which I really, really liked. You're challenging them. Most of you are around. You're not in tennis.
No, are you all in? You're either a 1 or 2. Ones are all in. Yeah. We had a young 9-year-old here from Northern California, Steve Roberts and that whole crew. Aoife Wilson, it's her maiden name, from Ireland. I said, go tell Aoife that you need to be tougher on me. And, we let him play a set today, but after every air, he had to swing. And the person beating him, 3 years older, he's got to do it. then afterwards, a lot of people don't know the follow up too. Is that I was talking to him. I said, "Hey, today you had the assignment to this kid Max. You had the assignment being the big brother, and I have 3 big brothers, and 2 of them were critical. One I called Phil. He was philosophical. So talking about going back, I have 3 sets of parents. Being the youngest, and my parents were pretty easygoing compared to the 2 sisters when they certainly were around. The one who was 2 years older, and then also 2 brothers. Is that they're not killing you with kindness like teaching pros. This kid's my client. I mean, I reprimanded a kid one time. I say kid, my father used to do that. Is that, I was teaching tennis, or you remember exactly where it was. Julian Krinsky's School of Tennis, Philadelphia. And this guy goes, well, my client. And I said, tell me your client's name. Tell me how old your client is. He's 11. I said, well, quit calling him your client. He's not a client. Are you kidding me? It's just fingernails across the blackboard. I mean, that's business. What do you mean he's your client? He's a student. He's a young athlete. Client. That just reeks money. It reeks of money.
Golfer's mentality. Golfers get
you could keep going. If I fade away here, but I think what we need to do is, and there's no problem, we make this a part 1, part 2. Golfer's mentality.
Golfers get done with their round, and the next thing you know, you see them on the driving range, and kid gets done with the tournament. And I think you were mentioning, one of the players that had lost at Wimbledon. You said, what she should do is go hit.
Today I was watching Diana Schneider. I mean, she went to NC State. She's off to this amazing run, and watching her hit backhands, and she's done. I don't know if she's still in the tournament, but she just should go hit a million backhands. But she's got to make it a circle. She doesn't need a dissertation for someone who's got a PhD. That's another whole thing too. But the golf mentality. I'm fortunate to meet these masters of tennis teaching I worked with, but I mean, it's like Miron Mann says about hockey. I don't even like hockey, but you live in Toronto, you just know hockey. But I knew golf. I never had an interest in playing. My grandfather called it cow pasture pool, but I was around the golfer's mentality. That golfers, the scoring system for one. On the first hole, I had a 5. And the second hole, I had a 3. I was a par. I was a bogey. They could go through the whole misery of all 84 shots they hit. And they don't want to hit in the water. They don't want to hit in the woods. And just different mentality. And you need to work on strokes. Yvonne, I said, he's such a young guy. I said, Yvonne, watch this. And, there's no time for what we're doing right now, but a little over a year ago, I was in the hospital and I had some time. I said, Yvonne, watch this. Go to the Golf Channel. And girl's 5 in the world, and she's standing in one place, and they're working on grips and shadow swinging. I go, it's a different world, but people need to have a golfer's mentality. And I have my experience of golf. One of my brothers married a gal whose brother was on the tour. I mean, I go on and on. My father just loved golf, and one of my brothers, he won the NCAA driving title. He went to South Carolina to play golf, University of South Carolina, just around golfers. And for maybe like 5 years, 4 years, there was this pro tournament, Pioneers, North Carolina. And I remember seeing Peter Jacobson do this thing where he imitated all the pros, all their idiosyncrasies. And I didn't know golf like that, where you could imitate Nicklaus and Palmer and their walk and all their movements. But they go straight to the driving range when they're done. Cleanse their strokes.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting where a lot of hockey players, just because of the nature of the beast, the winter sport, the summer sport, play golf. But it's really interesting. Tennis players, who's in my group? Did I get a good workout? Vic Braid, back in the day, it was $20, way back when. Here's $20 for my lesson. Don't say anything about my strokes.
I think tennis players also during the week, you also were mentioning flaws, just getting back to the golfer's mentality, but tennis players don't understand, like, let's say on the forehand, if you have a flaw on the forehand side, then that's going to affect your return to serve, your ground stroke, your approach, your passing shot, your swing volley. And
Yeah, so someone has too big a backswing on the forehand. Doesn't match the shape of the court. This swing is going well over 180 degrees on a 20-degree court. So let's start with the return to serve. Let's go now with the ground stroke. Let's go with the approach shot. Let's go with the passing shot and the swing volley. That's 5 times that you have to have a short, compact, circular swing. It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. And it's kind of like when a woman, years ago, it's not so much now, but a woman is a chain smoker. And then she's pregnant. She's going to have a kid. Boom, she quits. She just quits because they just know how important that is. That's a very good example, but that's where it's like, okay, you really want to be good? There's a tape online. I tell kids this motivational speaker, big brute of a guy. This looks like he's a football linebacker. And he says, you want to show you how much you really have to want it to be great. You've probably seen it. Big tub of water, gets a volunteer, and he just dunks the guy in water, and holds him down. And all of a sudden the water's flying everywhere and the guy's fighting for his life. And the thing is, he does it a second time. The guy comes up and he goes, if you really want to be good at something, it's got to be like oxygen, And it's like, okay, I'm going to get after it. Do your schoolwork first. And, and you can be a Renaissance person too, with, you want to chip away at piano, you want to be good at piano, but you're already 17. I'm going to dedicate at least, minimum 10 minutes a day. And I'm just going to start slowly. And that whole thing, if you go 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes, 10 months, 10 years, and you'll get to a certain level of expertise. I don't think you're going to set the world on fire as a piano player, but I think another Andre Agassi thing is on your terms. On your terms. People are just operating on other people's terms. Vic Braden used to say, if you like basketball, but you don't like to compete, but you like basketball, put a hoop up in your driveway, dribble and shoot. It's basketball. No one's telling you got to do it, where you've got to be, trying to get to the NBA level. And that's another thing too. We tell people all the time, get a basketball, get a couple cones, go to YouTube, dribble left foot, right foot, forwards, backwards. You don't need to be signing up for a basketball camp. You don't need to play in a game, but can you move a basketball? And now do it with a soccer ball. And my oldest brother, the first book he wrote was Dryland Training for Hockey, and there's 100 ideas on how to become athletic. Can you work 2 yo-yos at the same time? We do drills where you get 2 rackets and you have to juggle a ball. 1 racket, ball's hitting, going from 1 racket to the next. But then now you got to go around the courts and you got to juggle a tennis ball. You get 2 rackets. You do this at first, and then you have to now go with a tennis ball. You can get a soccer ball. And kids love that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, now it has to be structured. There's no backyard sports. There's no pickup sports. And everything's programmed out. And backyard sports. I remember coaching one kid, and his father said, I've learned so much from parents. His father said, tennis kids can't throw a football, they can't catch a football. Can you catch a football over your head like this? We do that. You got to be able to do that to hit a tweener. And, but if you just always are just playing tennis, it's going to be hard to become athletic.
Yeah, you're going to be one-dimensional for sure. Sam Snead, you said, or there was a Sam
Golf.
Snead quote. Yeah, you said, hey, if do this, and if it feels.
Braden didn't want anybody to use the word natural. Well, he's got a natural
Yeah.
backhand. And Vic would say natural. Drop that word. It's kind of like Tyriak. Don't use the word talent. But Sam Snead, if you want to be a great golfer, do what's unnatural for 10 years and you become a great golfer.
Yeah.
You know, how many times do you have to tell someone elbows raised like this in the ready position? But I think another thing too is that kids are judgers, even if their brain type is the opposite. Perceiver, judger. Is their parents are consumers. The parents drive away from a clinic lesson and they're judging, well, was that value for money? How did that go? And the kid just takes that all in. And with, I think with judging, was that a good lesson? Was that a bad lesson? Did I like that? Did I not like that? Do I like the coach's tone? And, just shut up and listen, with a lot of times with parents, if one parent really knows sport, they really know what the kid needs to do. Could be the mom, because now it's fair for moms, and a lot of moms have sport backgrounds. But it should be one parent telling the other parent, the one parent should be telling their kids, you do whatever your mother tells you, or you do whatever your father tells you. But the kids, it doesn't work that way. The kids become master manipulators, and the kids, that's where the child, many times, it's unfortunate there's families with one parent, but that household, a lot of times with one parent, they develop, and it's through public school sports, but they develop great athletes because there's one messenger. But many times with parents, there's two messengers. So if you get in the room, parents should never disagree in front of their kid. It's healthy to disagree, but they need to wait till the kid goes to bed and then have a discussion. But if they disagree in front of the kid, well, I think this, and for the most part, most parents in tennis, they're new. They're newbies. I mean, they haven't brought up an athlete. Kids don't come with directions. It's, Tiger Woods, his father, Earl. This is my second go around. I do think that certainly parents, if they could have a second go around, it'd be like, okay, what would you do differently? I think we could all say that about pretty much every experience. I would go about that a little bit differently.
Thank you so much, Coach.
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of the videos that you put out, the podcasts. I've gone through all the courses, but it's a whole different experience being here with you this week, and it's been such a pleasure. I've really enjoyed it, and I'm just so grateful to have someone like you as a mentor, and I'm really delighted that a person like Ivan Ozarets is going to be carrying the torch as well, and carrying on the legacy of all these other great coaches that you've been a part of. And I would just encourage all of our viewers and listeners to hopefully do some of the courses that are free, and to pass them along to all of their tennis friends and non-tennis friends, just to spread the good word of the GreatBase.
No, thank you. Thank you for your advice. I mean, certainly respect you as a student, obviously a world-class human being, but also too, is that note-taking, but just having a conversation with you, is that you've done due diligence. I mean, and I can tell on the phone when I talk to someone. I love it how our listeners, Chris, because this is Coach Chris, low performance coach. I've had a lot of fun with that. People introduce themselves, as you know, for our listeners. Hi, they meet me and they say, hi, I'm Charlie. I'm a high performance coach. I say, hey, great to meet you, Charlie. I'm Steve. I'm a low performance coach. Because that's a crock. It's a crock. High performance is, it's the thing about the client, pump the kid up, make the kid bigger than he really is, and false advertising. And it's like, it is what it is. You're a young player, Jose Garris, 12 and under tournament, somebody's got to win, not to take anything away from someone. And, there's always two sides to that. I mean, it's not easy to become a national champion. We had all sorts of kids win national titles. But, just to put it in perspective, and I think the whole thing is getting better. I think one thing that, again, in respect to what you've done so much is, and that's what we want to do, is have more people follow our content like you have, is it's a given that players want to get better. It's a given that players want to get better. But teachers as well.
Yeah.
Teachers just like, I am going to get better at my craft. That's where certainly, how's it go? I'm not a scientist, I'm not an artist, but I have a craft and I want to get better at my craft. And reflective thought. And again, I do think many times that people are just thinking about how can they make more money. And it's not like how can I make more champions? I mean, with how can I make things better for that kid? And pretty much that's where we are. We are in the kid business. Today I didn't really even watch one ball be hit. We had an adult, not that many functions here, but there was an adult tournament. And without belittling anyone or having any of the adult players know, there's a huge rock up here, there's a boulder. We could have a training session. Let's sit on the boulder. No one's smirking. No one's laughing. Don't throw stones. You live in a glass house. But you can watch somebody in one hit. If you developed your analytical eye and you have a handle on the information, you're a diagnostic coach, there's a flaw, there's a cause, and there's a cure. You watch somebody hit one ball. People don't even do that, play matches. Do you even know what grips your player uses, your opponent uses? Do you know any of the strengths and weaknesses or the ramifications of that grip? But that's where the tennis teaching business, that type of program, okay, that's service-based. Understand that, not belittling that. But, the education base that, you see people wearing bands on their elbows and this and that. And it was great just to see a tennis event. But we, not this weekend, but the weekend before, we have 12 clay courts and they just keep going down the mountainside here. And then we have 8 pickleball courts. And last weekend, it just seemed like anything was going on in the clay courts. But I went down and counted, there was 37 people on the pickleball courts. And a shout out to our listeners is, can't beat them, join them, is pickleball is a byproduct of how poor a job that we've done in tennis. And we could have been more creative, and we could have people, even like you mentioned quite a few times, spec tennis, with a bridge sport. But I do think a lot of times people think there's that today vision. Oh, I'm okay today. I got my income for the day. But where is the sport going to be? It's healthier in other places in the world. But yeah, thank you. We could go. I know you could go forever, and I hope I'm making sense. And we could just make this one podcast, but we're getting right up there for the ultra marathon. For the listeners to get through this one, same thing. We'll buy you a lottery ticket. But Cris, thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
Yvonne in the back. The GreatBase podcast, I think episode 2 of 4, it's in the books. Everybody wave goodbye there, Coach. And